Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Sound Stream. Today's news topics are all mildly depressing. So, on that note, we have me, the Soundout. We have Jerry, the Fighter Cows.
Yeah.
We also have the designer, the Dark Claw, the Ryan.
Are we ready to go fishing, everybody?
You know what I am ready for? You know what I am ready for? I hope we can fly, having reached all of its stuff, and I totally backed it on Saturday. After Glinda got funded, I was like, I need this now.
The saga.
The saga's complete.
Yeah.
I will be having the helicopter in summer of 2024.
Story arc has finalized. All right.
the arc of will sound out by the helicopter has ended. This is the most happy news of the stream, if I'm being honest.
Oh boy. You're not even wrong though.
Yeah, we have on the docket 3 major news topics. By the way, if anyone wants to back this thing, it got extended by an extra day. So you got till tomorrow night. We have 3 news topics on the docket. We have the SAG-AFTRA actor strike, because I imagine people have questions, and I can talk about it, you know, being someone that worked in the industry.
Especially related to Power Rangers, because that's I know people.
Yeah,
I see people already doomsday predicting.
I'll talk about why it doesn't actually affect Power Rangers. Number 2, Shin Ultraman's Blu-ray is getting a replacement disc, but it's complicated, and so we'll talk about that. And then 3 is we'll save this for last, the Power Rangers Lightning Collection, for all intents and purposes and everything we know, is most likely going on hiatus next year. So we'll talk about the implications of that. Muteki T, the UPS strike would affect films, except nothing can film now because the actors are on strike. So it's not going to affect that at this point, but the UPS strike is another strike I support, because they're striking because their delivery trucks don't have air conditioning, and people keep dying from heat exhaustion on the job, and that is terrible. And
that is really bad. Especially
I was going to add my local UPS delivery guy. He said they got new trucks back in January that didn't have air conditioning installed, and that is one of the reasons why they're on strike.
It's actually really bad because the fact they have so many packages in the back. That's like a lot more heat, because
this just got dropped off by UPS. It's still toasty. It's been here like 5 minutes maybe, but you know.
Hope there's no food items in your package when you get sent, especially because those things are gonna be smelly. I'm pretty sure. Or let's hope you don't order something very vinyl or rubber, or else you might open goo when you open your box.
No, I've had a few boxes where it's don't open the item, especially action figures. So yeah, no, it's a major problem, because the actual people working are having massive heat exhaustion, heat stroke, all that bad stuff, because they're in delivery trucks, and we're having record high heats across the country. For everyone wondering why there's a fan sitting there, it's let's see, what's the temperature outside? Just so everyone knows, it is 100 degrees outside. According to this little desk thermometer, it's 80 in here, so doing pretty good.
Here in Philly, it's 91 degrees outside.
Yeah. I've got 3 different fans on. I have the door open, but there's enough fan sound that nothing else going on in the house is going to come through to the stream. So on that note, I hope everyone's keeping safe in the heat.
Speaking of fans, we had Muteki T, Tokusatsu cosplay, Matthews Laura, Someone, True Hellfire Gaming, The Russian Wanderer, LPH, Toku Punk Productions, SA4 Jason, Mr. Yellow, Paisano 777, and Spin Dash, and Kyle. Welcome to the chat, everybody.
Welcome to the chat. Yeah, we're gonna go through. I think Russian Wanderer DM me the rest of that question. I'll answer it after the stream. We will do this in order of, I think, how long these topics will take. So we're going to do the SAG-AFTRA thing first, then we'll do Shin Ultraman, then we'll do Lightning Collection.
Well, I guess quick thoughts on newest episode of Blazar.
Oh, if you guys aren't watching Ultraman Blazar, you're a fool. Go check it out, because if you haven't at least seen the first 2 episodes, because the second episode is the start of introducing the main cast, go watch the first 2. And if you like it, keep going. And if you don't like it, then...
Ultraman go fishing.
Yes.
There you go.
Also, if you like the show, there's a live stream they did. It was an Ultraman Connection live with the cast as they watched the first 2 episodes in the English dub with the Japanese cast. It's really fun if you like the show. So that's good
Have
times.
you checked...
Mathis Laura brings up a good point. If you haven't hit the like button, please hit the like button. It really helps the stream. It really, really does. So...
Have you checked out the second branch of Sonic Prime yet?
I finished it last night. Yeah, I watched all 8. I was editing last night because it's way easier to edit at night than during the day because of the heat. So it was really cool. Also, welcome to the chat. I noticed 2 people popped in. Psycho O's and Collector K9. And Collector K9, you didn't really miss much. We just got started. And Psycho's collectors could go on strike if we had a union, but we don't because everybody can't make up their minds on what we want.
I speak, with...
thank you for hitting the like button, SSJ4 Jason.
I'm really hating Netflix's batch uploads so much.
The cliffhangers in Sonic Prime are weird because they don't feel like they're
because
meant to have a 6 months gap between them.
They're not seasons. It's all one season.
I did see we are getting a Ultra Epica Agulator 25th edition. If we get through the main 3 topics, we'll talk about toy news at the end. I have some stuff backed up, but yeah, I don't know if we're gonna get to it. So, also Comic-Con is Friday. It's also Barbenheimer Day, so there's a lot going on this week. I think Pikmin 4 comes out this week. Shin Kamen Rider is showing up in 200 countries on Amazon Prime Friday. God, there's just a lot going on. Walmart Collector Con for Hasbro collectors and stuff. That's tomorrow and Wednesday. Funko exclusives go up Thursday.
Was it they announced the brand new 6 on Spike with actual ab crunch, so everybody can be happy now. And Mr. Morbius.
Yep. But most importantly, Joe Fixit. I really like it. I have to try to order Joe Fixit, Bucky Cap, Shooter, Crimson Alley Viper, and the Mole Rat. 5 things I gotta order tomorrow morning.
It was isn't the Comic-Con exclusive a new Deadpool and Bob?
Yeah, that was all announced, and we'll talk about it if we have time at the end. I think I did see Deadpool? LPH ask a good question. What was that?
Is that Deadpool new mold or?
It's the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man body.
So. Really? Huh.
Yeah, so he's got the extra toe joints and all that.
Bob, I think
Bob has some pinless joints.
I'll take a look. Because I'm pretty sure it looks like the Bucket Cat body. It looks like they took the old Hydra mold and just
it. I'm skipping the Deadpool and Bob 2-pack because I feel like I'm good with the older ones. And I have way too many Deadpools. But it's a good set if you don't have either of them. Let's see. LPH asked a good question about if video games are affected by the strikes. Let me bring up the little SAG-AFTRA logo. Because let's just get into it. I'm willing to answer any questions that you guys throw at me about this. First things first, for those unaware, SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Actors Association, is basically what covers all of your actors for film, TV, video games, pretty much anything. So this is from SAG has membership of 160,000 members. 60% of those, on average, are background actors, also known as extras. Those are actors that do background work, may have one line here or there as like a reaction spot. It also includes voice actors. They're allowed to join. There's requirements and stuff. I'm not really going to go into the how to get into SAG.
It's actually a big thing with the voice acting community. I know that. Especially.
Yes. And there's also a lot of producers that won't hire people if they're in SAG, like Haim Saban. So
or Crunchyroll.
Or Crunchyroll. So this is it's a thing. this strike, so they've gone on strike, and they have gone on strike against the AMPTP, which is the American Motion Picture and Television Producers Association. And that is so the strike is between SAG and the AMPTP, which means this affects just film and television productions. So video games are not included in this because that would have to be done with the video game studios. This include podcasts, audiobooks, radio, that sort of. They're not on strike for that. I just noticed my VPN's still on. Oh boy. I was like, why is this blipping?
Right, trying to travel back.
Reconnection successful. Okay, so the strike. Yeah, real quick. Before we get there.
Okay.
All right. So the strike is between the actors and the studios for film and TV. So actors are not going to be acting in anything, auditioning, signing up for parts, whatever, not promoting anything, not doing any kind of anything, any kind of work that they would normally get paid for by the studios, not happening. And anybody that tries to come in and do work for the studios that isn't a SAG member and does work for the studios during the strike will not get into SAG. That is in the contract. So if you ever want to get into SAG, now is not the time to be doing work outside of SAG. What was Muteki T saying that you mentioned?
He said you should go on a strike. VFX artists. I think from what I remember reading from
VFX artists don't have a union. That's problem number one. They can't go on strike because they don't have a union. VFX artists should be unionized, and absolutely that's the thing that needs to happen. And in general, I see a lot of people mentioning like, oh, video games should go on strike, all these other... We're honestly at a point where corporations have been exploiting the working class of people so long that it's time to just start striking back, because the only way that they're going to get the idea is if you go on strike. You refuse to work under the conditions that are being met. That's why UPS is going on strike. That's why there's going to be airline strikes. There's going to be, I think train strikes as well. Welcome to the chat, Zero Films. Muteki D, yes. Chris Hemsworth is a SAG member. A lot of actors, even if they live outside of the U.S., are part of SAG.
Can still be SAG, yep.
Yep. If you've ever seen anybody in a big Hollywood movie, they're part of SAG.
My uncle's part of SAG.
That's right. Jerry's uncle's part of SAG.
It used to have a different acronym, Film Actors Guild. And when my dad called, he said, My dad was like, wait, what? I was like, no, Film Actors Guild, because it used to be FAG.
Yeah, now it's Screen Actors Guild because of television. Television becoming more prominent.
Which, hey, now you could say that acronym without getting looks.
Mm-hmm. Also,
Paisano, it's UPS delivery drivers specifically, I believe, that are going on strike.
Also, speaking of Amazon, well, not at all, but Amazon MGM streaming stuff going on, there's only one part that I know that's unionized. And it's the part I used to be in, the kitchen.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. The other parts are not union.
Also,
Muteki, it does not count Broadway because while those actors can be a part of SAG, the strike is against film and TV studios. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah.
I've seen people asking like, how come animators are also like striking? And I've seen a lot of animators say the reason why they don't strike because that's a different. That's a different.
The Animation Guild, their contract isn't up for another year or so.
Yeah, so they cannot join on these similar strikes because generally that's a whole separate thing.
Yep. The thing is, people in animation can go out onto the picket lines and join them, but the Animation Guild is not officially on strike. And to that point, the reason why a strike happens is that there is a contract between the studios and SAG, or the studios and the Writers Guild. Because for those that may not be aware somehow, the Writers Guild has been on strike since May. This is the thing, is that
joining them now,
yeah, the actors are joining them and they're putting it out. So the thing is that
I was going to say, it doesn't matter who gets it first. It's most important. It's most important that the studios listen. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter if actors get it first or writers get it first. All it matters is that they.
I will say it's likely actors will get it first because without actors, nothing is happening.
I mean, that's so unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. I was watching a Young Indiana Jones episode that took place in 1920, and one of the characters is a writer, and she's like, yeah, writers always get treated the worst in this business. We never get any respect. And I'm like, wow, okay, that hasn't changed.
At all, yeah.
But to back to the original point, the way that the strike happened was that the contract between the guilds and the studios comes to a deadline, and they have to renegotiate their next contract for the next 5 years. Welcome to the chat, Common Jojo. So SAG and the studios were unable to reach an agreement by the deadline, and they even extended the deadline, and no agreement was made, and that's why they're on strike. The big points of contention with the Writers Guild and SAG are on the same page on this. People aren't getting paid properly. Because of streaming, the entire business model changed for television as well as movies. So, welcome, Commodore 64. So what happened is that in the old days, your TV shows aired on a network. They usually ran 22 episodes a season, and then you would get residuals for every time those shows would air again in syndication or reruns on the network. So essentially, if you got on a show, and that show ran 5 or 6 seasons, you could be set for life because of your residuals. For example, SAG president Fran Drescher was the lead in The Nanny, and so she has so many residuals that she hasn't really had to do as much work again, but she's using her position as a well-known actress to help
Jack
push.
Nicholson.
Yeah, we could give plenty of examples of people who have worked on this. Congrats on the new job, Zero Films. There's a lot of people that used to be you could make a living on just being a regular on a TV show, or just being popular in movies. And the thing was that with The Nanny, for example, everybody benefited from it. All the actors, all the writers, all the directors, they all benefited from the residuals. Whereas nowadays, the streaming was classified as a new media. And because it was classified as new media, it didn't follow the television rules for pay and residual payment. And because streaming numbers aren't publicly disclosed, which allow the studios to kind of hide things a little bit, the actors aren't getting residuals. And because streaming has made shorter seasons, you may get a bigger paycheck up front, but you may not get any residuals on the back end. And then that has been a problem because essentially the way that residuals work in the industry, if you're a working actor, we're not talking like the top 1 or 2% of actors who can work consistently, get large paychecks and all that. We're talking like everybody else, especially background actors, where you only work 6 months and they produce a 10-episode season of a show, and then the other 6 months you don't have another job because there's nothing being produced at the moment, and then they wait a long time for that show to actually air, and then once it airs, you don't actually get any residuals from it airing. And so, because of that, you have this problem of the industry is broken. The industry changed to something different, and the studios want to keep paying actors like they were because that made the studios more money. The executives at the top are making so much more money than the actual actors. So Sean Gunn, who people may know from Gilmore Girls or Guardians of the Galaxy, mentioned that in the 80s when he started acting, the CEOs made about 30 times the money that actors made. But now they make 400 times the amount actors make. And so that's the base problem is the pay. And then the same thing is for writers, with writers having a problem of smaller writing rooms. They used to have more people so you could learn how to work on it. They bring in some experienced writers, some less experienced writers, and it'd be a more collaborative process. But now they bring in writers for a couple days or a couple weeks at a time, and then they're gone. But go ahead, Ryan.
Like, for example, in terms of how bad the pay is, actress, hold on, get their name right. Kimiko Glenn, who was actress for Orange is the New Black, she only got $27.30 for just royalties.
That's
and she did like a TikTok video of like her payment, and like I'm looking at it, it's like only a cent, like 1 cent episode, 1 cent royalty, 1 cent, 2 cents. It's 4 cents. It's bad.
It's basically nothing and that's the show that put Netflix on the map for making original content.
Yeah.
That reminds me when I had something similar and I got $6.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I had something similar. They said, "Oh, well, you're at least guaranteed your wages plus $50." All I got was $6. At the end of the day.
They're paying by the cent, not like dollars. Yeah. And that is really, and like see that, and Orange is the Black is a big series for Netflix. Seeing that kind of pay is really bad. Like
the writer of the Daredevil episode of She-Hulk got paid $396.
I was,
and that is something that was viewed by millions of people.
Rent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's even
exactly.
And I will say this for all the people who go like, "Oh man, they don't deserve to get paid because they wrote the episode was bad." Screw off! Like
No,
really?
The thing is,
Like,
and someone said this. They said, if you think the writing is so bad in Hollywood, maybe you should be advocating for better pay so that people will put their all into it.
like it just because you don't like the episode that you wrote doesn't mean they can't afford rent for that month.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Going to the chat, before we talk about the AI topic, so I'm going to talk about that as a little separate segment. Spin Dash says, correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't the last time writers and actors were on strike at the same time as back when television started becoming a big thing. Yes, they have not been on strike at the same time together since 1960, back when Ronald Reagan was the president of SAG. Not even when he was the president of the United States. He's president of SAG. And that was because of television coming up, and people weren't sure how to get paid working television as opposed to movies. So let's see. Going through this, Muteki T. Why do these top guys get paid so much? Because they're the ones that decide their paychecks. The top CEOs are paying themselves and giving them high fives. They give each other bonuses year after year for basically doing nothing and not actually doing anything. Spin Dash brings up a good point. Streaming services don't disclose hard numbers, and one of the reasons is because the reason why is because the sorry, I'm trying to come up with a word. There's a word in my brain. Where was I coming with hard numbers? Wall Street. So a lot of studios have become more tech company and Wall Street focused, and that is where part of the problem has come from. They stopped running movie business and started running a tech business that also produces visual media content. Streaming services got pushed by Wall Street because of how Netflix was doing, and everybody tried to replicate that. And so Wall Street is the ones that they don't want to tell Wall Street if a service is doing well or not. And so they can kind of just dance around going, oh, this is the biggest premiere on Disney Plus. Oh, this is the biggest premiere on Paramount, like without actually saying what the numbers are. And if they were to be paying people correctly and paying residuals, they would have to say what the numbers are. But I will say the fact that the actors went on strike because of the unwillingness of the studios to negotiate caused stock drop off, and several Wall Street analysts are like, why the hell did they let this happen? All right, Ryan, what do you got?
It just it's one of those things where, because this is the first time we're both writers and actors, because of course you remember, like, was it 2006 or 7?
2007 was the writer's strike, yeah.
Was the writer's strike. And so, but because the last time I saw a big, because people talk about video games, and the last time that happened was 2017, 2018. That's when, and because, that was the last voice actor strike I remember. So again, but that's basically for video games, Yeah. So again, here it's, this is for film and television, just, I think a lot of people don't realize that just because it is voiceover, there are still, they go under different contracts, because video game recording is a separate thing from voice recording.
And there's also goes the case for animation. So like anybody that's in SAG is not going to be doing any animated voice acting because that's film and television. But they'll still do, like, Yuri Lowenthal's going to Comic-Con, but he is not going to say anything about anything that's not Spider-Man 2. Because that is just the only reason he's there.
And you're not going to get it out of him.
Exactly. And that's the case. If you're going to a convention this summer and an actor just refuses to answer a question, it's likely because they're trying to stay within the SAG rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they even go. They'll expect a lot of cancellations, I think. Some of them aren't going to want to deal with it. But, yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's why I always keep forgetting his name, but Jaime is main actor, and movie is not going to promote the movie. Yeah, he's not going to promote the movie because of this, because it's part of SAG, for example.
Exactly. If he promotes it, then he's going to get in trouble with SAG. And also, you don't want to promote the thing coming from the studio that Fire Fury, welcome to the chat. You haven't missed Lightning yet. We're going to save that. We're doing SAG-AFTRA strike talk. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them. Then the Shin Ultraman Blu-ray, then Lightning Collection. Yeah, Comic-Con's going to be more comics focused for sure. They've already replaced a lot of the media panels with comic panels, which is fantastic. I think Comic-Con should get back to its roots.
Yeah, the one near me did that.
Yep. Muteki commercials. Actors can still do commercials. That's absolutely allowed. The other thing is that before we talk about AI, because I think that's a kind of big thing here.
Elephant in the room. Yeah.
Big elephant in the room. The other thing I was going to mention was that with actors on social media, a lot of them have taken breaks on social media because they don't want to be asked about stuff. Writers Guild and SAG have not called for a media boycott. Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of people are like, "Oh, we shouldn't go see these movies. Oh, we shouldn't pay for these streaming services." No, that's not the right way to do it. Unless SAG and the WGA call for a fan boycott of the studios, still go see and support the things you were going to go see and support because the actors and the writers need the leverage of their work being successful to get the studios to agree to their terms.
Just because they're striking does not mean they not want to see they don't want you, the viewer, not to see their work because
exactly
they rely on us to see their work because they know that they work hard for not only to get paid but also for their fans.
They want you to see the work because people in this industry, in the writers, directors, actors, well maybe less so directors, the writers and actors especially. They're in it for the passion of filmmaking, not for the money. Because obviously, as we've talked about, there isn't a ton of money in it. It's for the passion and the art of doing it. Hollywood is a weird business because it's 50% business, 50% art. Whereas other industries, like if you're a painter, you don't need to worry about the business side as much. It's just like, I made this. Do you want to buy it? Whereas like when you go to make a movie, you have to think about how you're going to make back the money you're investing in it. It's all two sides there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess should we talk about the AI elephant in the room?
Well, I was saying with that is it's a similar situation with this. What happened with Spider-Verse is like just you don't like no one's telling what happened with Spider-Verse. The animators is bad, but doesn't mean that those animators do not want you to see their work
unless they specifically tell you to do so. Keep going ahead and enjoying their work. I'm not going to be sitting here promoting movies for free for studios because I never do that. I'll just talk about movies and shows as they come up because that's what I do here. It's review. It's different.
Well, because you just want to discuss. I think it's one of those things.
Discussion is not promotion.
Yeah, because it's one of the things where if you with some people, it's like you take I understand why you may not want to watch a certain thing because of A and B, but that doesn't mean that other people cannot talk about it.
Right. It's like I wasn't telling anybody to stop talking about The Flash, even though I was not going to see it based on everything about it that I didn't like.
Because there is a lot who do not know or don't care, and not because
for every one person that knows about a controversy in Hollywood, there's 100 people that don't.
And when they don't care, that doesn't mean they're being dicks or anything like that. It's just they just want to view art medium as an art medium and not worry about behind the scenes thing. Because to them,
that's 100% a valid way to enjoy stuff and probably a better way to enjoy stuff.
Yeah, and because that's a very separate thing. Because it's that they don't want to have that kind of guilt of oh man, this movie has bad production value, behind the scenes value, but I really like this. No, that's like a very bad for your mental health kind of way of thinking kind of way.
Yeah. All right. So 2 things before we talk about the AI part of this. For Fire Fury, Cosmic Fury may get promote. Well, I don't think Cosmic Fury is going to get a lot of promotion anyways because stuff we'll talk about later.
Russell
Curry and Hunter Dino are the only 2 actors in SAG. The other 5 Rangers aren't in SAG, so they could promote it if they want to. They may not. They may choose not to. That's also an option. Because if they're trying to get into SAG, they won't promote it. If they have no interest in getting into SAG, then they might promote it. The other thing too is that big companies are going to push sports and reality TV. It's how they always do it. There's a thing now like Yellowstone and Miss Marvel are going to get TV broadcasts, and everyone's like, "So are they going to get residuals now that you're going to put them on TV?" So that's just adding to the fire.
Or the depressing thing because they don't have, since the strikes happening for strikes have, there's nothing new they can put on, so they had to do quote unquote be filler.
Yeah, they're filling it out with stuff in their libraries. And it's really funny they did this. They have to do this now after every streaming service deleted dozens of shows for tax credit. And so the thing is, let's talk about the big thing. It's the SAG and the WGA are 100% on the same page here. Miss Marvel, not the Marvels, because the Marvels will be in theaters still. AI. So AI is evolving. And AI is at the point where you can go to ChatGPT and have it write a research paper for you, right? It's not going to be perfect, but you can do it. And what studios are proposing is that they'll have ChatGPT write an adaptation script of a book or a comic book. And Paisano, no, it's just season 1 of Miss Marvel just re-aired on ABC instead of
the actors not to be able to do voice acting. We'll just AI voice it.
We'll talk about that in a second. So first of all, writers, what the studios were proposing to the writers, which is why the negotiation went nowhere, is that the studios would say, okay, well, we're going to use AI, and say you want to do a new adaptation of Lord of the Rings, right? So here, ChatGPT will give you an adaptation of Lord of the Rings, and then we're going to pay you for 1 or 2 days to go clean it up and make it sound nice. And 1 or 2 day rate pay is like a couple $100. And you get no creative input, you get no long-term work, you don't get to work on set with the script as it evolves. They want to cut the process down because it'll save them money and essentially cut the writers out of a career. And so that's where the negotiations broke down, because the AI topic, the AMTTP, would not budge. And the writers said, then there's nothing else to negotiate. And then they went on strike. SAG had an even worse case, because what the studios wanted to propose a revolutionary, historic deal for AI. SAG revealed what that deal was. That deal was paying an actor a single day's worth of pay to scan that actor and create an AI duplicate of that actor that they can use in anything for all time without any further payments. And for some reason, the studios thought that was a good deal that SAG would take. And SAG said no, and walked out of that negotiation pretty disgusted and went on strike. And that's the thing that it comes down to. With the pay and the residuals thing, there is ways to compromise and make stuff work there. With this AI tech, there is not. Because SAG and the WGA both feel completely threatened by the way the studios want to use AI, that while it can't replace their jobs currently, the fact that they want to use AI tech to basically catalog people's likenesses with no consent and no royalties to that is insane. The fact they want to replace writers with ChatGPT is insane. And so the guilds are not budging on it. And the studios are actually, there's some people in the insider space have said there's some studio executives that thought it was insane that the AMPTP did not drop the AI thing, and that's how the negotiations broke down. There are some executives that are all for the AI. There are some executives that are absolutely against it. And so there's a lot of dissent in what this AI topic should be. And so what needs to happen is that the AMPTP needs to come to the WGA, to SAG, and say, we're dropping the AI, we're not going to use it, or you're going to have we'll get an AI likeness of you, but we're going to pay you and put you on a contract and stuff. Whatever it is, the thing is that the writers and the actors guilds both were willing to negotiate how to use AI as a tool in the future, and they both had proposals, and the studios would not hear it in the negotiations, and that's where we're at. And so now, as opposed to having a compromise on the pay scale, WGA and SAG are very likely to strike until they get everything they want out of the studios. Because, for those wondering, yes, nobody's working, but a majority of the people in the WGA and in SAG already have side gigs. Because of the way streaming has evolved, you end up working less, you don't have residuals, you can't make a living as a writer and actor like you used to in Hollywood. Therefore, a lot of these people are willing to stay on strike 4 months because they already have side gigs in place because the studios trained them to do so. So I don't know how long this is going to go, but the studios are losing money by the day because nothing is being produced. Their content well of what is finished production cannot run forever, and eventually this will hit a head point. But that is the biggest problem here is the proposals from the studios for the use of AI in the writing and acting fields. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
I mean, it's as so it follows so many voice actors, it's getting really bad there. Where it sucks. I think especially with voice actor because, because where like live action stuff, I don't think you really could do that at home. Where like a lot of people do like AI voice stuff, AI voice videos on YouTube or such, and it's bad because before it was pretty robotic, but now it sounds so close, and it's getting to the point where it just a lot of actors are calling this out because hey, you're using my voice and making my character or my voice say things that I don't want to say, and I think what depresses me the most about this is a lot of people are like, nah, man, we don't care, or like AI
Tech bros are the most annoying people on the planet,
and like such, and like it's bad because as a voice actor, like when you see those AI videos, you're hearing your own voice saying things that you didn't say, and that's gonna be very disturbing,
especially as it develops and gets almost indistinguishable from the original.
Yeah, so like
I agree with you, LPH. I did forget to mention that yes, there was an article that was published to Deadline.
First of all, welcome to the chat, Infinite War Tom.
Welcome. There was a comment made. Deadline wrote an article that got retracted because the studios were like, "What the hell did you put out there?" Apparently, a studio executive said they plan to run the writers' strike until the writers are homeless. Ron Perlman was very upset about that. There's a great video with Ron Perlman if you go look for it. Infinity War Tom brings a good point. Focus on AI by the AMPTP is also about preventing unions from growing by preventing prospective members in the future, not just a cost-cutting measure. You're 100% right. I hadn't actually really considered it, but yeah, that's true. If they scan every background actor into a database, that's 60% of SAG that no longer can work because they're now a digital duplicate. And in fact, if you guys think it's a far-off future, there was a lot of people sharing stories going, wait, I worked a background actor on a set entirely on a green screen, and I don't exactly know what I was doing, but I think they scanned me and duplicated me without me knowing. So it's already happening. Already happening.
Yeah.
There was that one Disney movie that had CG people in the background. Remember that?
Yeah, they've done CG people before. It's a not
really egregious there.
Yeah, it's not an uncommon practice to like shot a crowd of 20 and then we duplicated them to 200. Right. But the difference there was that was part of the contract and part of the consent of the people working. Not, hey, we're going to have this duplicate of you that we're going to use forever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you talk about prospective members. That made me think of like how I want to be a writer, screenwriter. Mm-hmm. I have Final Draft. I have all this. This stuff is where I'm like, oh, so basically I don't even have a shot, huh?
Yeah.
Because AI is just gonna write stuff, and they're not even gonna like. We don't want anything written by a human.
Blueberry mentioned Space Jam 2. I'm pretty sure that film.
Space Jam 2 was about an evil algorithm deciding what movies would be made and how it was worked, and that's an actual thing at Warner Brothers. They have an algorithm that decides what movies to make with what actors. Welcome to the chat, Josh Perry. I gotta say too that with the strikes here, I think the main reason they're fighting back against it is that the writers and actors know if they don't settle the AI thing now, when they come back for negotiation in 5 years, they have no fighting ground at that point. It has to be dealt with now, because if it's not dealt with now, in 5 years, it's going to make everything more difficult. And so that is going to be, I think, the main fight here. So expect this to go on a while, because apparently the studios are too bullheaded to see what the solution is. And so yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else you want to say in relation to the SAG-AFTRA strike before we move on to the next topic?
I wish the best for all every actor because I think this especially really sucks because I think how because I think as such as artists and someone's been fighting AI with AI art, which I despise so wholeheartedly.
Oh God, yeah.
I know the feeling because I think it's because they're pretty much it's like why put effort when
Exactly.
where studio can just go like type and oh look now it's doing what we do, and especially when you're like training and studying and all that stuff, it really kind of puts you down seeing that stuff, and I really do hope that they can beat this because they do deserve pay. They really do because we wouldn't media. I think especially because back then, media like media stuff like superhero films or and the such weren't the norm. They weren't like the big thing. They were still in that nerd culture stuff, but like now they're such a dominant part of a lot of people's lives that they should get what they deserve. They should get paid because without them, the actors and the writers, we wouldn't be here today. Because if you use yourself like the MCU wouldn't be here, it wasn't for Robert Downey Jr. and such like that, or or Chris Hemsworth or Chris Evans. Yeah,
it takes a lot of things to make something successful. I do want to respond to two comments. WG Phil said, "I wonder if Hollywood cared about blue collar jobs getting automated." Actually, yes. So the thing is, may not be the big studio people because obviously they don't care about anything but their bottom line. But Fran Drescher said in her speech when SAG went on strike that actors and writers are at the forefront of AI replacing the jobs, but that this is something that affects that can affect all labor jobs in the future as more automation is replacing people's work, and that they hope that if they can win this fight here, that will help other labor jobs win their fights down the line. Stussy also, Stussy said, devil advocate, if the movies, shows, and sales aren't performing, can you really expect to get paid millions of dollars in contract and royalties? It's not about millions of dollars of contracts and royalties. The way that it's supposed to work is that if you work on something, and then that thing gives you a paycheck up front. And then as an actor and a writer, you get residuals based on how the show performs. So for example, if a show like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's just create a show in our head here. Show A goes out and millions of people watch it. It's beloved. It runs for 7 seasons. Every year, the actors and writers get more pay. Their pay gets increased and the residuals get increased. And then over the next 20 years, it reruns on a bunch of networks and it's just constantly running because it's so popular. They get, a check every time it airs. Then you have show B. Show B wasn't well loved, but it had an audience, and they aired it once, and then they never aired it again, and nobody sees any residuals from it. But nobody's going to expect to because, well, okay, it didn't do well. The basic problem is that when you have huge shows that do really well, and they go out there and they make a bunch of money for the studios, they're really successful, they're constantly running, and then the actors and writers and the people that are involved making it get none of that. They get no percentage of it. What I would call the Haim Saban gambit, except Haim Saban wasn't insulting enough to hire union people. He hired non-union people, so he didn't have to pay them after the day was done. So the thing is that is, it's not that millions of dollars of royalties to every single person. It all depends on if it's successful or not. It's same thing for movies. If it's a huge box office hit, on the back end, it goes to streaming, it goes to home video, everywhere it airs on TV or airplanes, you're supposed to get a percentage of that residuals based on the success of that because you working on it are a crucial part to its success because you helped create it. But once again, the studios are figuring out ways to circumvent that and keep all the money for themselves. And mostly just give themselves like huge bonuses. Look, we had a great year, and then the actors are like, I'm homeless because I can't afford to pay for rent. And you're over here with a $27 million salary. So that's basically the answer to that question.
Mm-hmm. No matter what, no matter if the product at the end of the day is good or bad, writers and actors should get paid no matter if it did well or not.
To put it in a different perspective, say for example that someone brings this up, it's exactly where I'm going with this. Say for example you work at Target and you sell 40 really bad blouses, but Target still pays you an hourly wage, and then you get to go home with a paycheck at the end, and your paycheck isn't dependent on the quality of the blouses, right? That is, a consistent work. But if you are the designer of the blouses, and the blouses sell really well, and you get a bonus because of how well they sell, that is kind of how it works. But if they don't sell well, then you don't get a bonus on that. That's just how it goes. So, to kind of to apply it in a lower field, it's essentially the same thing with creative works. Right now, the biggest people affected by the strike financially are going to be crew, but crew have been supportive of this because they know what's at stake. The crew in the industry know what's at stake here. Because a lot of crew are hourly workers. They don't get any bonuses at the end of the production or anything, depending on its actual... like when I worked crew, I didn't get any residuals because I wasn't on camera. I wasn't part of the creative process. I was there to work the process. And I got paid hourly. I got paid pretty good. And then I moved on to the next thing, except I never had another job because everything is sort of messed up. And to Muteki, to your question, indie films are not affected. That is why they're indie. Because and a lot of people will go off and do indie films during this time because it is not affected because it is not part of the studios. So, all right, Jerry, Ryan, you got any other last thoughts on this before we move on to little Shin Ultraman Blu-ray?
Ryan brought up.
Yeah, you go, Kels. Yeah, because I think I discussed everything I need to discuss. So, Kels.
Well, Ryan brought about being like call it
AI art
and all that, because that affects me too. Because, bruh, I try to get better, and it's like, haha, I can just. What gets me is execs are like the AI bros I see on DeviantArt.
Yes.
I did all this. Pay me even for this thing I just typed.
I despise people who use AI art that do commissions because why are you commissioning? You're
exactly.
Are you commissioning prompts or wherever how it works?
Legit. And like I said already, trying to get into it, like it's even worse now because like, haha, we got this AI. What are you gonna do, noob? I got these stories, and we don't care. I see you don't. That's why this is happening.
Mm-hmm. Stussy, the Oppenheimer explosion that Nolan recreated was done in miniature, from what I understand. So,
oh really?
Apparently he didn't want to use any CG, so he created it in miniature and like slow photography, like make a little tiny explosion, make it look big. And Mr. Yellow, yes, there was a huge misconception that James Earl Jones sold the rights to his voice in perpetuity. Yeah, his voice was generated, I believe, via AI for Obi-Wan Kenobi, because I think James Earl Jones is having trouble doing the Tokusatsu cosplay. We still got another hour of the stream. James Earl Jones is old. He can't do the voice like he used to. The AI usage at Lucasfilm is a little different, because what they do at Lucasfilm is, instead of like trying to digitally recreate an actor, they are using the AI program to pull audio and visual elements from the library of what Lucasfilm has shot with the actor's permission, in order to match what they're looking for. So Harrison Ford's young look in Dial of Destiny, Mark Hamill's in Mandalorian, Darth Vader's voice in Obi-Wan. What they did was they took everything that had ever been shot with those actors, and they had an AI. The AI was just a program pulling from that actor's past elements to match their current performance to make it more in line with what worked in the old days. It's a very expensive technology. You can honestly just recast people. I think nobody would really care that much. But it is done with the permission of James Earl Jones, with Mark Hamill, and with Harrison Ford on the case-by-case basis of all of that.
I mean, it's really bad. It seems super with Lucasfilm because they basically cast actors that look like the characters, but they keep putting CG AI likenesses over their faces.
That's the thing that Star Trek, I got to give credit to Star Trek. I know it's a budget thing primarily, but they recast Spock. They recast Guinan when they need to do a young Guinan. They've recast actors since the beginning. If they needed him and the current actor wouldn't work, then they would just recast him, and it's worked every time. Star Wars has even worked every time. Ewan McGregor is a recast. And so when they're like, we can't do recast because Solo didn't do well, it's like, what the, I don't know, Ewan McGregor's a recast.
I don't think Solo's like the reason why underperformed was because they didn't get Harrison Ford.
It was because it came out 6 months after The Last Jedi, and that's too quick for a Star Wars movie. To finish this up, yes, Stussy brings up a good point. How fitting for all this AI stuff to come up after the release of The Flash. Yes, where I'm not exactly sure who asked, if anyone asked permission for those cameos that were done through AI CGI deepfakes. We know Nicolas Cage was involved with his, and I don't know about any of the others, because there was a couple actors that were like, I didn't do anything for this. Why am I in this movie?
Did they contact Christopher Reeve's family estate?
No idea. And we know they didn't contact George Reeves' family or estate because he doesn't have one.
Oh yeah.
And someone, yes, I love Solo as well. That was my favorite. That is my favorite Disney Star Wars movie.
Would you say it's underrated?
Super underrated. It's a great like heist, smuggler suspense movie. I love that movie. And, you know, if you can just be like, you know, this isn't Harrison Ford playing Han Solo. You just get over that little mental hurdle, you're gonna have a good time.
Part of me always still wonder what that movie would have been like if Phil Lord Miller stayed on.
Probably bad. Hearing how Chris Miller and Phil Lord were to how they were changing Spider-Verse stuff after it was finished animated, I don't know if Solo would have been good. Stussy, you didn't have to call me out about the Flash Steelbook so much. But no, it's going to be good. So, Shin Ultraman, because let's do this before Tokusatsu Cosplay finishes again. Shin Ultraman is getting a corrected re-release.
So should we do backstory?
Backstory.
For people who,
what do you mean?
For people who don't know this whole scenario.
So the Shin Ultraman Blu-ray came out last week. The subtitles present are a dub title track, meaning it's closed captioning put over the Japanese audio and pretending that's the same thing, as opposed to the theater used English subtitles that actually translated all the on-screen text and were done by Sean Nichols of Ultraman Max and Ultraman Connection Frame. So what happened was that this came out, and then suddenly people were like, okay, well, why is there HTML formatting marks? Like you saw, like when something is supposed to be italicized.
There's a dash. There's like a dash.
There's dashes in lines. There's like the I bracket for italic. All that stuff is there, and it's unwatchable, honestly. Also, none of the on-screen text is translated, which is horrible because the first 3 minutes are nothing but on-screen text and no dialogue.
Oh boy!
So, I got my disc in. It sucks. It's unwatchable. I can't recommend it at all. However, there is news that it is getting a corrected release. Supposedly this week, retailers are going to get a corrected release. If I were you, if you haven't bought it, wait at least a month and then buy it. Because that way you can see all the retailers circle out all of that. Spin Dash, I'll bring up that point in a moment. If you did buy this, Sci-Fi Japan put up an article, and they took down an article because apparently Cleopatra Entertainment, who made this release, got flooded with messages and like, we haven't checked the corrected discs to see if they're good yet. And so they haven't quite sent them out yet. I don't have any loyalty to Sci-Fi Japan or Cleopatra Entertainment, so I'm just going to drop you guys the link if you need to do it, because Cleopatra Entertainment took 4 emails to get back to me to tell me I was getting a corrected one. And I was asking like legitimate questions like, should I share this information with other people? Is this actual program plan? Whatever it is. I absolutely, Donnie Wellman, good point. I would wait to see how the corrected release is. I will not be reviewing this until I get my corrected disc because I feel like that's fair to review what they think is the best version. So, yeah.
Do you have to send the bad disc to them, or would they just give you the new disc?
As far as I know, they're just sending us new discs and you don't have to send anything back. Most times with disc corrections, I never have to send back the old disc. I've never had to do that, actually.
All right. So when you do your video, because
I'll compare when I get to do the video for sure.
Because sometimes with a scenario like this, if say you need to send the disc back, you probably want to grab footage of the bad subtitles before you have to send it back.
Yep, absolutely. So I will do a full review. Yes, Spin Dash, good point. They will want a picture of the case, front and back, plus the receipt/order details from wherever you ordered for, with your address on it if it was shipped. That was something they asked for me specifically. I sent them an Amazon screenshot of my order, and they're like, "Oh, we need it with the address to verify what it is." So, yeah, they didn't want photos of the disc. Yeah, they just want the case. I guess just to prove you had it. Yeah, we can talk about we'll talk about it when I do the video, like why this didn't go to anybody else. I will be doing this once we get the corrections. Now, thing is, I'm not super confident the correction is going to have the Sean Nichols sub on it, because on the menu, under options, it goes English subtitle on and off, Japanese audio, English dub 2.0, English dub 5.1. There's not there's not two subtitle track options, and one of them happened to be duplicated to the other. Yeah, I'm not exactly confident this is going to be a good release when it's finished. So if you haven't bought it yet, I would wait at least a month if you're planning to just buy it for your collection. But the best recommendation is wait for my video before you decide if you want this.
So the version on YouTube was that's the Sean Nichols subtitle, is it right?
Yes, if you buy the digital on YouTube, because it's Japanese only, you get the Sean Nichols subtitles. So, honestly, I don't like to advocate digital purchase over physical in any means, because I think physical media is absolutely how we preserve things for the future. But if you're wanting a good copy of the movie, the digital release is probably your better bet. But again, we'll see when we get the corrected disc. I'm not judging it early, but just based on how this was, not super confident. I don't know about the Voodoo release, Spin Dash. I probably just need to buy it and find out. We'll see. I don't have money to do that at the moment. I just bought a helicopter.
I like how context you might take decide to buy a real helicopter.
Yeah.
Yep. Kyle, yeah, I have no idea why this doesn't just use the Sean Nichols stuff. They're already done. They didn't have to do anything. This company didn't have to do anything except maybe create a closed caption track for the dub.
Is this Cleopatra's first ever foreign film that had to do a subtitle track for? I wonder.
This is Cleopatra Entertainment's first foreign film release. Yes.
So clearly, it shows that they don't know how it works.
I imagine if the corrected disc is as bad as still not got like the Sean Nichols stuff. Yeah, no slipcase on this either. I already have my intro. I have my intro planned out. My little cold open gag is going to be funny if this is what it is. But we'll see. I recommend waiting for my video, but by all means, if you want to buy it and get it and ask for a replacement disc, go for it.
For a movie that made over $1 million, right? It's a very cheap release.
Very cheap release. I will look. I may have a half-hour video on this release to talk about everything that involves with it. You guys got any more thoughts on this before we move on?
I imagine half of the video just the history of. I imagine the first half is just the history how we got here, because Shin Ultraman's whole history of trying to. Its Blu-ray release was a weird one.
Yep. Muteki, you could sell it to Japanese people, but why would you bestow that upon them?
Why not, I guess.
Donnie Waldman, if this was the Ultraman Mill Creek level quality, that would be an improvement.
You think Mill Creek Ultraman quality is not even that bad. It's just very budget title.
Yeah.
But even then,
I specifically was mentioning the Ultraman with its left-aligned subtitles.
Okay.
Yeah. Jerry, you got anything else on the Shin Ultraman thing before we move to our main topic?
Hello?
Yeah, Kowski here.
Yeah. I was asking if it has extras, like anything.
Oh, no, it's got a photo gallery and a trailer.
And it's very basic. A very basic release.
And it's like $15. I forget who said it. I think it said it on Twitter. They were like, that Ultraman versus Red King set you reviewed recently is a better value. I'm like, yeah, it's like 16 episodes and it's good.
That set's too high quality for being kind of one of the generic volume sets.
Yeah.
You see.
Honestly, I don't think I gave it enough credit in the video that the Ultraman versus Red King volume is one of the best values you could ever get.
Because I remember Funimation, they have a similar release of that where it's Dragon Ball Z, the best fights, and they were very basic. basic like DVDs.
Mm.
So Milk Creek put a lot of effort into that ranking set for being kind of I won't say throwaway, but it's meant to be like, oh, random parent sees it out of Walmart, pick it up for the child to watch it kind of scenario.
Yeah, it's also a good primer if you've never seen Ultraman. Just be like, here, watch all these episodes of the same monster. Like, all right, so let's see here.
Like Blueberry, and there was no Gridman dub, unless you talk about SSS, which there was no
or the subs.
problems with dub. I think you're talking about subs
because the subs were bad. All right, so I think it's time. I think it's time to crack open ye old can of worms.
Oh, we don't have anything else to talk about.
I mean, we do, but if we don't talk about this, it'll just be weird.
We have a whole hour left, so
Muteki, yeah, I would love a King Joe and Zeton collections. I would legitimately buy all those volumes.
I guess funny enough, speaking of home media, I just got in the mail just now my complete series set of the 2012 TMNT series.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I opened it, and it's pretty much all those single volume sets just dumped into this whole repack into this case.
At least it's smaller.
It's smaller. But what's annoying is Wheels. What's annoying is they have artwork in the inside because the translucent case of disc 1 to 2, like disc 1 to whatever. Problem is they don't say disc. You know, the discs are just repacks. They didn't bother to put like a new front on the disc, so it has still the individual volume like DVD names under them.
Yeah, that's how they did the 87 Turtles turned out.
Yeah, so you said when they say disc 1, it's like, I think this one's this one kind of scenario.
Yep. I'm gonna get the 2003 Turtles DVD and I'll review it. And I like calling Blue Beetle Mexican Beetleborgs. All right, it's time to crack open the wound. Yeah,
I would say this one last comment of the 2012 series. The DVDs themselves were good, so I do recommend the set. You want the complete series set.
It would have been nice to have a Blu-ray, but
yeah,
the DVDs are at least not. They're at least good DVDs.
Yeah, at least they're good DVDs. At least, and kind of like it's the same style case as the budget release of the '87 series, which
it's probably gonna be the same size case for the
2003 series. So, which is actually really nice. So you can have them all displayed together like that.
All right.
Anyways,
we're ripping the Band-Aid off.
Also, welcome Wheels.
Welcome Wheels. You're just in time for pain. Toku Topics, Josh Perry, the Lightning Collection Master of Knowledge. I'm going to call him that now. The end of the Lightning Collection for now, because as Josh is reporting from his sources and what I can confirm from reading the writing on the wall, the Lightning Collection looks to be taking a break in 2024, at least temporarily. There's always a worry that when a line goes on hiatus, it never will come back. But you never know. If the demand is seemingly there, then it may return. That is 100% a thing that has happened to many popular toy lines before. Marvel Legends. Marvel Legends is probably Hasbro's biggest output of toys, right? Like, or at least a single line. They put out like 150-something figures a year.
Marvel Legends technically had 2 rebirths. You want to get technical?
You want to get technical. Marvel Legends had a break between 2005 and 2007 when it was switched from Toy Biz to Hasbro. And then it actually was dead in 2011 to 2014, I think? 2013. Yeah,
because
there was like 2 years where they only put out a couple multi-packs and a Comic-Con exclusive, and that was it.
Or movie 6-inch figures.
Right, movie 6-inch figures exclusive to Walmart or Target or both that weren't branded Marvel Legends. So there was still stuff, but it was really funny. It was like the beginning days of the MCU, and Marvel Legends didn't exist. And then it came back in 2013, really hit its stride in 2014, around the time of like Amazing Spider-Man 2, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then just flew, and it's never slowed down since.
Because technically, remember, the Marvel Legends of today was technically called Marvel Legends The Infinite Series.
This is true.
When it first came out.
Yeah, it was called the Infinite Series for like 3 or 4 years. So the thing is Lightning Collection is seemingly going on break. Where's my notes? I took down notes so I wouldn't forget stuff, and then I forgot to pull up my notes. So Josh has mentioned that he doesn't have many listings yet, or many listings still that haven't materialized. which is, always a sign. We do know that the Power Rangers team did lose key staff members when Hasbro did their big employee purge at the beginning of the year. We lost some sculptors, some brand managers, some marketing people, which is definitely still that I think is a huge factor in a lot of this. Everybody that was left on the Power Rangers team also works on another brand, as far as I know, except I think maybe John Warden. I think he may be the only one. But he's not going to get fired because the line's going. He'll just get shifted around because he's been a long-term Hasbro guy.
And a monster.
We don't talk about how our opinions on John Warden. We're just going to talk about the business.
For now, then we get to opinions.
The Vintage Collection for Star Wars is their most popular line, and that took a break as well. It's not to say that Lightning Collection will ever reach the heights of Marvel Legends or Vintage Collection, but it's not to say that it's completely dead. G.I. Joe as a brand was dead for a good couple, good 3 or 4 years, I think 5 years maybe. Then it came back with Classified.
2013 was, I think, was it 2013 2014 was the last year with new Joe products.
G.I. Joe's 50th anniversary line in 2013 was the last Joe product until Classified.
Yeah, that was 2020. Was that 2019?
2019, yeah.
So, yeah, that's a big gap.
It was 6-year gap. I think the last remnants of the 50th anniversary line came out in 2014. So it was about a 5-6 year gap. So it was an intense gap for G.I. Joe, but it came back, and even if it's not got super big media support outside of comics, it's, the second Classified Haslab went well. So, that's funded. I think that another reason why it would be going on break is that the quality control has ruined sales. Here's an example. Big Mike posted this on Twitter. His local Target having just a whole tier Toys R Us last days level of stock of Blue Centurion and the Silver Ranger, and that absolutely can be chalked up to Target overstocking stuff and putting it on clearance because that's been happening a lot. There's a lot of Power Rangers in this photo. Now, I don't live in a huge major city on a coast, and yet this was my Target a couple days ago. 3 Blue Centurions and what is that? How many? 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 12, 14. There's 18 Silver Rangers there.
And 3 Mosa Blasters.
And they're half off. Those Silver Rangers are half off on clearance.
The public reception.
I will get a crappy bike.
Yeah. And so the thing is that it's not just that it's a Target overstock issue. 100% a problem. I mean, my Target had 30 Cyclopses as well. But guess what my Target doesn't have anymore? Cyclops. He was on clearance for 2 weeks, and then they cleared out all 30 of them. I've seen these sitting around for weeks since they went on sale. And it shows to me that the audience that wants them already has them. And, yeah, I don't know. Target has a major problem. Fire Fury's speaking to this, actually working at Target as well. They're, for some reason, Target got, here's an entire case of Cyclops. Here's 3 cases of Cyclops, and not the whole wave, just the Cyclops figure.
I hate when toy companies do that in general.
The way that solid case packs are supposed to work is supposed to go to online retailers, not physical stores. So it's really bad. And then also the Indiana Jones line is already on clearance, despite only being out a month. People haven't even gotten pre-orders of some things from Target, and they're already on clearance. It's a big mess.
This isn't a Target problem. I go to my Walmart. Every time I do go to Walmart, same problem.
Same problem there.
Overstock with basic figures of their Walmart exclusive stuff, or Megazords, or Morphers, and blah, blah, blah.
So with a lot of this stuff is that it's not only the overstock problem. It's not only the clearance thing. It's also look at those 3 Mosa Blasters. Those have been sitting there since they came out. I haven't seen a single person buy them in 6 months.
Those came out in January.
Unless all 3 got bought and then were replaced by 3 more, I don't think anyone's actually bought them. There is, I think, and this is, it's hard to say. Here's Ryan's meme of the day. That's a good meme.
I made this at work. I was in my head.
Yep. I had to make a tweet thread about this. The thing is that I gotta say that it's welcome Don Ranger Power. The biggest problem I think is that the interest for Lightning Collection is massively smaller than the amount of Lightning Collection that's been produced.
Here's the thing. Can you just say Power Rangers in general?
Yes, I can say Power Rangers in general.
That's true.
Yep. I think
remember
Once and Always should have been our Once and Always should have been our watershed moment, and it wasn't. That's I think a reality we have to face, that Once and Always got a lot of fans talking and like nobody else.
I will say this because I want to say this because I tell you this relatable. It's not really. It's about Power Rangers in general.
Yeah.
I just think with Power. You think of any other franchises that got revivals, good or bad. There's always it gotta be people talking about it, or there's gonna be some reaction. And I think it's because you got to look at Master Universe Revelations.
Mm.
Yeah, I know people are not fans of that series, but it did get people talking and got people into Masters, for example, and such like that. And then you get something like like for example, like Mutant Mayhem. The movie's not even out yet, but I go to every Target I go to find the new toys, and they're always sold out. Like I can't find any of the basic figures.
I can't even find all 4 turtles in one store.
Yeah, because I seen like when they stock. Those are big stock. I seen when Target freshly when the first day when they stocked was Mutant Mayhem end caps. Those are stocked with all the figures and stuff. And every time I go there, they sold out because turtles are just that big and such. And same with Transform. Part of it also has with distribution problems, but I can't find that much Rise of the Beast stuff either, or Transformers in general. Like
that's a whole can of worms, because there's a bunch of the Transformers Rise of the Beast toys that just don't exist in the U.S. But
that's it, but it's still like
franchise. I will say that the only thing I've seen shelf form as much as Lightning is Marvel Legends, because I keep seeing 30 of the same figure.
You still find Eternals figures?
No, Eternals are all gone.
It's overstocking. Marvel Legends has too much coming out still. They have yet to really slow down.
I mean, I think
I do want to address some of the people in the chat before it gets away from us, because I did see some good points brought up. Blue Baron, at this point, buy whatever toys you want. Don't buy them for the sake of thinking that it's going to stop like a hiatus from happening. This was decided months ago by people who are not on the design team. This is a business decision that was made, not the people on the design team.
Toys are planned ahead of time. I think people need to be reminded that toys are planned way in advance.
Josh told us months ago he didn't have any future listings. Like when they revealed the Turbo Red Wave, he was like, I don't know what the next wave is. Spin Dash Once and Always been out a few months, but we're only now just getting the first 2 remastered figures. Yeah, that's I think that was a huge misfire, and that's I think a lot of it too. And Fire Fury, sure, Revelations was debatable on quality, but people talked about it. It's better for people to talk about it than for people to not talk about it at all. Even if it's good or bad, if nobody talks about it, it's like it never even happened.
I mean, look at Secret Invasion. I don't see anybody talk about Secret Invasion, for example. Only like few.
I don't ever get Secret Invasion spoilers. And that's the thing, is that if nobody's talking about it, good or bad, nobody's talking about it, it's not going to help a brand grow. So
say what it will about The Last Jedi. It got people talking, and that's why Star Wars get stuff to say.
By the way, YouTube wants me to insert an ad break, but I'm not doing that to you guys.
Do it. How do it.
Wait, how do we do an ad break for a live stream?
Apparently, I can press a button and we'll go to ad.
It happens. You can even schedule ads.
You can schedule ads to show up. I can literally click a button right now, and we will go on an ad break. But I don't really want to do that. I want to keep this talking. There's a lot of people. Oh my god, yeah. Someone mentioned in the chat, there's 53 concurrent viewers. Holy cow, guys. Appreciate you all. If you all hit the like button, I'd very much appreciate it. Welcome to the chat, Crossy Aussie. I gotta say that, like, it's amazing to see all those many people here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And that's why you're not getting an ad break, even though it might get me money or something.
It gets everyone. If you want Soundout to give an ad just so he can get some more money, like, put a thumbs up in the chat.
Yes. Hit the like button as well. That helps too.
That helps Soundout's revenue.
I want to point out, I see Seko's comment. To be honest, with Lightning Collection, Hasbro should have a premium Bandai style website for certain characters, i.e., the rest of
How it
Turbo.
should have been.
Wait,
Yeah,
isn't,
we
isn't
do.
that
It's called
Hasbro
Hasbro
Pulse? Yeah, they never
It's
used
called
it for anything for Power Rangers, though, right?
Literally,
Holy
Hasbro Pulse. Me and Sound had said Hasbro Pulse is
Yeah.
they should do for P Bandai, so they can release like the more risque Marvel Legends figures. So they can't just go, we
Or
can only
so-
release it at SDCC.
Or stuff that only fans who really care about only
Yes.
get.
Mhm.
Like, you know, that time they were like, yo, let's release a pedophile as a Build-A-Figure.
Oh God, Sugar Man.
I want you, if you're listening, Marvel Legends designer, you're a sick individual.
I-
Like 2 waves of Age of Apocalypse. You are a sick
At least the
individual
second wave's
just to get
Build-A-Figure
Sugar
was Colossus.
You sick. You sick, man.
Raheem Young brings up a good question. Why do you think Power Rangers can't level up? Personally speaking, I think the reason why Power Rangers can't level up is because Hasbro, Saban, Disney, whoever, never wants to invest money in it beyond, oh, hey, we can take this Japanese show and make a quick, cheap American show, and then we make a bunch of toys and it makes us money. Like, they never think about pushing it further. The only time we did was the 2017 movie, but nobody was paying attention to why Power Rangers was loved when they made that movie. The other thing is that, Muteki T, people treat Power Rangers as kids. So do the people in charge. From the production side, Simon Bennett and team were told, oh, you got to write it. You can't put any important plot details in writing because you got to assume the audience can't read. Oh, yeah, you got to write to make sure a 3-year-old can watch the show. Like, whatever mentality that was running around from, like, Samurai onward, that, like, the audience had to be the youngest possible demographic, is what wrecked the reputation of the show. It plays like a preschool show in a lot of seasons. And then when it levels up a little bit, like with Dino Fury, it only gets up to, like, a 6-year-old level. Not like something that older
7 to
kids and
12.
adults could enjoy.
Because I think I had this epiphany with Power Rangers, weirdly not going back and watching Ninja Turtles and some of these other like older shows like the DC stuff. I think the problem with Power Rangers is in terms of a brand and just the identity of it is less of color spandex heroes, but it's more of the structure of everything. Because technically, here's the thing: Power Rangers is a must. Power and Sentai, when they get technical, is a must a week show. But so is a lot of other shows like Ninja Turtles or any superhero show. But the problem, I think, with Power Rangers is it got stuck in a formula because you think of any other show. Well, with Ninja Turtles, you get villain of the week. We must stop the villain, but they to do other stuff like progress the plot or have more calmer moment. It feels less structure. But Power Rangers, even the best seasons, have that structure. It's very, civilian plot, villain scene, civilian fight, ranger fight, Megazord battle, and an epilogue, and so on. WB mixes in the formula differently, but it's been stuck in that style for 30 years, and I feel like that's why the show is kind of looked down upon because there is such a formula compared to even other Monster of the Week show because it is very that. And
I think I was gonna. You mentioned this earlier with compared to other brands, Turtles, superhero stuff. It's all camp, but it doesn't lean into the camp. Power Rangers is written with the mentality that it's cheesy, it's campy, and so they lean into it too hard, and then that overtakes the actual storytelling.
And I think another thing is what people talk about. Oh man, why can't this season have figures or blah blah that stuff, or talk about Pacific Sea. I think that's the thing is when I think of every other franchise that has other versions, is the fact that every year Power Ranger gets a new season. It's I think harder for the general audience and such to understand that because you think of like Transformers and Ninja Turtles, you have eras, you have 87, 2003, 2012, Rise, Transformers, 80s,
the eras
Beast
of Power
Wars.
Rangers are based on who owns the IP.
Yeah, and you can't describe that to a general audience. How can you say these are the Disney era, right? Well, they can't even say that because legally they cannot say
right.
Disney, pretty sure. where like someone could go like, oh man, I love the Fox Turtles so much. Oh man, I love those anime Transformers and such. You can't say that with Power Rangers. You can say, I like this Ranger team and I like this. It's hard to like. I think that's why Power Rangers have this whole Mighty Morphin problem, because how do you market Power Rangers to a general audience that don't know how the show works without confusing them?
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to go with the basics, Mighty Morphin. You can go, oh, okay, maybe we'll make a Ranger team.
Thing was, when I went to do my Power Rangers viewing guide, I had to think about how do I tell people how to watch Power Rangers, and I just ultimately went with, I'm going to assume they know what it is, because it's hard to describe.
Like, you could, maybe like Hasbro could have done like, oh, maybe you have one Ranger from this season for each color, but then you would go people like, why those guys don't look alike? Like,
yeah, I think before we get into the weeds of like how the Lightning Collection could have been done better, because I don't even know if that's a full top, like that's not just a whole separate topic. I did want to mention Spin Dash.
I literally was writing an article about the reason the Power Rangers downfall, and I just kept holding my article back because more crap just kept piling up, and here we are.
Spin Dash, brings a very good point. Like, how have we not gotten any animated adaptations of the comics or video games under Hasbro's direction? That's another thing.
Battle Brigade came out. Battle Brigade only came because of the Lionsgate stuff.
It only happened because the developers at Enway happened to be Marvel vs. Capcom fans.
And that was a deal with Lionsgate, then Hasbro, because that was under the movie brand technically.
But the thing is, I think it's an absolutely good point that like Power Rangers has never tried to be different. We talk about how the formula got stale. We talk about this, and this, but like outside of I know there was a proposal for an animated Power Rangers series at one point. Outside of that proposal, I haven't seen any company try to do something different with this brand. I've just seen them look at like it costs this much to make, it gives us this much money, let's make it. And that has dwindled year after year, and now we are stuck in a point where, Hasbro does not care about Power Rangers like it's one of their own. It's something they acquired. But the thing is like, I can't look at how the ratings have gone or how the toy sales have gone or just anything else and go, oh yeah, the best thing to do is to keep going. Because I think it needs to stop and look at everything from a wider perspective and go, what is working, what isn't working, how do we get this, how do we put this franchise back on track?
I will say this, because I saw this on Twitter, is some people are saying Hasbro is not worthy of Power Rangers. And I'm sorry. I'm
Saban wasn't worthy of Power Rangers.
No.
Nobody was.
Because I find that stupid, but also, I'm sorry. I love Power Rangers as much as I love the fandom, but Power Rangers compared to every other media franchise is bottom of the barrel. I'm sorry to say that, but that is true. Because
that's how the general public treats it.
Because that, and
when I was
remember, the reason why this deal happened in the first place because the movie bombed badly. It did bad.
The movie bomb?
Haim Saban. Haim Saban.
No, he didn't wheels. People know it bombed, but it's more of it bombed. Yeah, of course, but
I don't think that people realize. People don't realize that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a massive bomb for Disney, and they're not ever going to make their money back. And that was more successful than the 2017 Power Rangers movie.
Because that wasn't even made a franchise. It was just kind of pretty much another indie movie they just wanted to
make.
Right,
but the thing was, that was a $329 million film that has only made $300 million at the box office. Power Rangers didn't even make its budget back. That's how bad it bombed. And
plus, there's also marketing and everything like that.
Exactly. Like, it massive bomb. I think it cleared its initial budget in its box office, which means doesn't count for marketing, doesn't account for the theater cut, doesn't account for distribution, none of that.
Every time Power Rangers got bought is because of something else.
Right.
Disney bought the franchise. They did not buy the franchise technically. They bought the Fox. The Fox
Disney
block.
bought Fox Family and Fox Kids. They did not buy Power Rangers. Because Haim Saban sold it because it went bankrupt. And that's because Haim Saban will not hold on to anything that is losing him money.
Saban only got it back because Disney was selling it for dirt cheap.
Yep. It was dirt cheap. Saban had kept the music rights. He literally bought it back with the money he made back from Disney off of the music rights that he kept. And then he kept it and was like, oh, I'm going to revitalize Power Rangers and all that. And then as soon as that movie came out and it bombed and they lost money and the toys piled up because the Ninja Steel toy line and the Power Rangers movie toy line were both bad, that was when, that day that that box office closed, was when Saban said, I need a buyer. And that buyer was Brian Goldner at Hasbro. And then Brian Goldner died. And I legitimately hate to say it, but when he died, the CEO, corporate executive level interest in the brand went with him. He was the only one at Hasbro willing to go to bat for Power Rangers. And now that he's gone, there's no one in the corporate level that's like, we need Power Rangers. There's no one passionate about it anymore. It's done. And so now Hasbro, as the multi-billion-dollar corporation they are, has to rework it into a way that it's going to be very profitable. I saw the question fly by. When was the last time Power Rangers made money? Almost every season.
I think Samurai was when
it made buku bucks. But every Power Rangers season at least breaks even because it casts non-union talent, it shoots in New Zealand, half its footage comes from a pre-existing Japanese show, and they can usually sell enough toys to make it worth it. So if the franchise is getting out of New Zealand, that means it finally broke the dam and it's not making money like it used to, and that they feel that continuing to produce it is going to hurt the brand as opposed to help it. And that's where it's just plain business. And I think that's where we're at. And I think Once and Always was a major part of this because that should have been a huge, big resurgence. But unfortunately, I think while I really loved that special, it did nothing to bring in the fans who haven't been watching Power Rangers in 30 years. It needed like a 20-minute recap of what had happened. It kind of relied on you to have knowledge of what happened to the characters in Zeo and Turbo and stuff. And that, I think, was a big problem of why it didn't get the casual audience as well, is that there was or even a separate marketing thing that was like a recap of what had happened. It didn't work for non-fans.
And yeah, part of it is also Netflix, but part of it also was to Hasbro's job to.
Yep, it was Hasbro's job to market it. Hasbro could say, "Oh, Netflix didn't market it," but Netflix never does. But I've seen other brands, Master of the Universe, they got marketing through Mattel. Hasbro still owns the property; they can take responsibility for marketing.
Sonic Prime, Sega.
Sonic Prime, Sega promotes it all the time. Exactly. The other thing is, Infinite says if Power Rangers let the Boom Studios staff write and direct the show, they'd do a lot better. Yes, but that is a different writing skill. Writing for TV is a bit different than writing for comics. And under the current way that Power Rangers was produced with using Sentai footage, none of the Boom Studios writers would want to do that because you are so creatively limited as to what you can do when you write an adaptation of a Super Sentai show.
I mean, yeah, you can make a lot of original footage, but that's going to add up to the budget.
Exactly. And that's the problem that we have, is that there was no way. And I legitimately have thought this for years. There is no way for Power Rangers to truly evolve unless it abandons adapting Sentai. But by doing so, it also abandons that really sweet deal of we don't have to shoot an entire new show. And I think that is probably the biggest thing, is that when Power Rangers comes back, because they will try to do this again, Power Rangers will at least get one more resurgence for sure. And when that resurgence happens, I hope they go all original, they push the brand forward, and they really give it a fighting chance. Because I think repeating a 30-year-old formula was not the fighting chance it needed.
Because think of every other, again, whenever there's a reboot for a property, it's always going to be something unique, and you're going to get
real
new
quick
fans.
To clear up a misconception. SSJ4 Jason, Disney bought Saban Entertainment and Fox Kids to get the Fox Family Network, because Saban owned the Fox Family and the Fox Kids networks through a leveraged buyout. They wanted that network, and that network became ABC Family, which became Freeform. They wanted another network in their arsenal. And then getting a whole library of kids shows that they could run endlessly on Toon Disney was just a bonus. Anyways, go back to what you were saying.
Yeah, think about any other franchise that got a reboot. You always get new fans that specifically grew up with that version, and it's up to them to check out other versions. Think of, there's always going to be specifically Transformers fans that grew up with the Unicron trilogy, or Ninja Turtles fans that grew up with Rise of the TMNT, or DC fans that grew up with Teen Titans Go, for example. I have not seen that with Power Rangers. I grew up with. Actually, no. I grew up with Dino Charge. I was about to say Samurai. Didn't remember Josh. I grew up with Dino. I have not seen that. I have not seen. I feel like they're scared because that's the fandom.
The fandom is. I will say this: the fandom online is generally very unwelcoming too, and that's also not helped anything for building an audience.
And so the roll back to Lightning Collection, I would say this: Hasbro will never officially say it has either ended or break because that is bad PR. I think people don't realize that.
I can't point correctly. Here is my Twitter thread. I did want to bring this up. That because I tweeted this out after I saw a bunch of people denying Josh's reporting and saying we want to wait for an official statement from Hasbro. Here is my Twitter thread as a longtime collector of Hasbro product dating back to, I've been collecting Hasbro stuff since like 2004. 2005 is when I started paying attention to this stuff. All right. Hasbro doesn't announce the ending of toy lines. They just stop making them. And that's the entire toy industry, too. You very rarely get a cancellation announcement. Sometimes they'll stop announcing while still releasing, like Fortnite. Like, there's a bunch of Fortnite releases they never announced. But they never openly said Overwatch, Fortnite, G.I. Joe 50th, etc. were over. One exception to this is the Marvel Legends Retro 3.75 line. They allowed someone who worked on the line to make an Instagram post saying they were sunsetting the line to make room for the Epic Heroes line. This was never repeated on any Hasbro socials or press releases.
And that felt less the lines canceling and more they just want to end the line. Like they did stuff finale. Like
they wanted to they put it aside for that line because they wanted to focus their 4-inch efforts on a new kids line. Yeah,
it's like there's a difference between cancellation and conclusion for like television shows.
Yeah.
For example, it's not like the Marvel Legends retro line was canceled. It was more of they decided to end the line to move on to Epic Heroes, and I think that's why they said it like that because.
But this is the key point here. This was never repeated on any Hasbro socials or press releases. Hasbro did not put that announcement out themselves. They let one of their employees do it. And I say let them because Hasbro employees are not just going to say something on social media like that. Same thing for when in the Transformers Q&As. The Transformers Q&As also give us insight like, Micromasters are done. That comes from a Q&A with Hasbro employees. End of the day, Hasbro's corporation, they rarely openly burn bridges. They just stop mentioning those bridges until people forget they were there. That's the way they do business. I don't have anything to add to this, nor we'll discuss it further today. That was a few days ago. That's why I left it to nobody can reply because I didn't want to fight anybody on
because
Friday.
If Hasbro publicly
I think you should have fought some people.
I did not have the energy.
Here's the thing, because if Hasbro say they cancel a line, that means it did bad, and the market share will notice that. Is why they don't say it. Because if they said Power Rangers Collector is canceled, the market share people go like, "Oh,
Stussy mentioned Ghostbusters. That's another example. I forgot. See, remember how I said they'll just ignore the bridges until you forget about them? I forgot about how I have every Plasma Series figure. Totally forgot. Yeah, Ghostbusters line just spirited away, and it'll probably come back for the new movie.
And it didn't get an Oscar.
Yeah, it didn't get an Oscar. No, it's the Ghostbusters line just vanished one day, spirited away. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean that happened. That happened with the Rise toy line. It just didn't make any more no more figures didn't continue.
The Netflix CGI He-Man line.
Yep.
Whoop, gone. And that's how every toy line I've ever done. The only time you hear about the end of a toy line, and I mean it, the only time, is
like the license goes to somebody else.
Exactly. Mattel said DC Multiverse is done because McFarlane Toys, we're losing the license to McFarlane Toys.
I mean, Power Rangers Legacy Collection.
Infinite brings a good point. Yeah, I noticed that. Overwatch made good figures, but they never made key figures. Yeah, I noticed there was a lot of the characters I knew from Overwatch who never hit that line. And that's
characters. I'm not just kidding.
Yeah, but no, that's the thing is.
No, I'm not.
They're just, and Small Dream brings up Adventure Series as well. Same thing. Adventure Series is probably done. We've already probably seen everything we're going to get. But they never said, they didn't say it on their stream, this is the end of the Indiana Jones line. They're just like, that's all for now. That's how you keep business afloat.
Because, one, again, that's bad PR to say your line's ending, but also, two, who knows? They could be just a random figure released like a few months later that wasn't announced ever.
Exactly, and I think we might see that with Lightning Collection, where someday Entertainment Earth or Big Batch is going to be like, look, we have this figure, and everyone's like, where was that? And it,
we got Transformers Cyrus was going to end, and then wait, what the new products? What's going on here?
You guys already brought up marketing, which was what I was going to bring up.
Yes,
and you guys already brought up how low tier Power Rangers is in the grand scheme of things, which is also true. My question is, what's the realistic look after this? Are A, they come back as is and just say, yeah, we're back, or B, they rebrand, or C, they're dead. Forget it, no Power Rangers for you.
From what I can, for me, I feel like we might get like more licensed product. Like,
just so everybody know, comics and Renegade Games stuff isn't going anywhere. That's all.
Because that's a separate.
And those are successful.
But like, yeah, I see like for example, like NECA makes some Power Rangers thing because for licensed states or something like that.
7.
Who knows? Maybe Super 7 stuff will actually get
released.
People want to buy it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get that probably. Maybe like an occasional crossover thing, maybe from like another line with Power Rangers, maybe. But I don't see until they figure out how they want to do Power Rangers a major release from Hasbro. Not saying Hasbro's gotta like pull the lever and stop. I see them trickling out maybe some extra things for cons or maybe for like a special deal with Walmart or Target or whatever, but not gonna be a full.
Oh crap! The phone's going off. Give me a
line. We're not gonna get a full line next year.
I agree.
My prediction.
My prediction is a little bit of mix of B and C, from Jerry's examples. C is like they just never touch it again. I think they're going to give Power Rangers one more relaunch chance. You know, I think
Mighty Morphin Revision 2.0.
Not that. What I mean is that
it's nothing but spam.
They're gonna wait a couple years. Like how G.I. Joe waited a couple years. They're going to wait a couple years. They probably will start floating out a rebrand of Lightning Collection, maybe not under the same name. And I really do think one of the big problems with sales is the QC issues, 100%. There's a lot, like the thing is...
Also plastic-free packaging.
Well, the plastic-free packaging is here or there. It was the QC problem, right? Because like my Marvel Legends come out of plastic-free packaging, fine. My indie figures come out fine. It's the QC, right? So the thing is,
the roundup for a reason.
If the QC problems didn't happen the way they did, I think we wouldn't have a hiatus happen. But I think that a hiatus is good on all accounts. The show needs complete reworking to figure this out.
Another problem is with the.
Let me finish. Let me finish. The show needs complete reworking. The toy line needs complete re-strategizing because I think Lightning Collection taking over 5... We never finished Beast Morphers, guys. There was one left to finish the main team, and they still couldn't do that. Needs restructuring, reorganizing. We need the QC problem solved, and if that means pulling it out of Vietnam and sending it back to China, so be it. Because I think the QC issues killed my interest in the line, and I am an over-dedicated toy nerd. The casual audience is gone if they get a figure that has a missing head or something. And then the other thing I think they need to do is space out time. They need time to let the franchise rest. I saw some people mention they need a Kuga moment. Some people mention that they need like their big return moment. Those all happened after several years of not doing anything, letting the public forget about it. So that way when it returns, it has a better... It comes back with a stronger feeling.
That's how Samurai got so big. Because, it was 1 year. Because 1 year when Mighty Morphin Revision.
Actually... with Samurai, it was 2 or 3 years depending on where you lived, because my area didn't air Jungle Fury or RPM. So, yeah. But I did want to let Wheels have a moment to speak on what he thinks in relation to Jerry's question about what he predicts would be what they should do.
If they just do like how they did, like, remember when Classified went silent for like just a couple of months to a year?
Yes.
Yeah, Joe, yeah.
When was that? That was year 1 or year 2?
It was like beginning of 2021, I think.
Okay.
So, like, if they want to do a short one, what Classified did, where they just went quiet, come back, finish the teams that they haven't finished yet. Like, the first one should be, like, Lightning Collection or from Beast Morphers.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not going to take, like, if they're not going to do, like, a short break, we need to get like some of the other teams finished off. I think what they need to do is just go for a little while, come back with it like they did with Marvel Legends after a couple of years and maybe reboot the show. Because I think one of the things that was the issue with the toys were with the quality issues. So many quality issues from paint, from joint and assembly, and that was a problem. I think one of the other things was it wasn't just the quality from the factory, it was the quality of they didn't have a design team of sculptors like we've said before, Soundout, working on the same teams. They would have two guys working on
yellow.
So there's a lot of inconsistencies with the line, budgetary costs of weapons and stuff. There are some people in the fandom who said the only reason they actually bought the figures were for the human heads. It's hilarious, being that the human heads took away accessory counts and actual real weapons. Then they were like, oh, here's also these effects that don't matter. And you and me said the same thing. If a season had helmetless shots, have the head. If they didn't have helmetless shots, no freaking head.
I think also, as we talked about, especially with the effects, when you were getting an effect and you were missing a weapon, that was what I was like, why is this effect here? I felt like the effect should only have been included when it was to round out the accessory count of the characters that had less weapons.
I think that was a problem. I think another problem is, too, for this line, and this is just personally, I think when they started making monster figures and they decided to make them bigger in some regard, the monsters were bigger, like Super 7, where they're like, oh, but you'll have a Megazord in the same scale as it? Fine. I'll take that excuse.
There was nothing for those monsters to go with.
Nothing. And because it's the thing, some monsters, I could understand why they had to make them a little bit bigger to work with the mold and the joints and articulation. There's other monsters where I'm like, that's just a human body with a giant pumpkin.
Right.
Pumpkin wrapper could have just been a regular body with a giant freaking pumpkin.
I will add to the civilian head discussion, because Paisano brings a good point. The civilian heads were special. The problem with the civilian heads, at least for me, I think for you as well, Wheels,
the likeness.
The likeness. Like, if it wasn't for the fact 60% of those civilian heads didn't look like their actors, I probably would like them more. But then every time I see a civilian head that doesn't look like the actor, and then they're missing a weapon, I'm like, why is this not the weapon instead, you know?
I find it interesting because I remember, I think Tokusatsu.
Oh, heads are a big problem because remember the original Kimberly, like she was on crack, and if she was a cartoon character with like
Wave 4 Rocky, the Zeo Rocky one, that's like the worst head still.
That's also the other worst head.
Spin Dash brings a good point. If Goldar was big from the onset, it could have been accepted more easily. Yeah,
exactly. It probably could have been accepted.
Same
more
with
easily.
Zed too. Like Zed and Goldar being normal figures, and then like every monster of the week being like way bigger than them was crazy.
I mean, it's always interesting with the civilian heads. I think Tokusatsu made a tweet today saying that apparently Bandai America was shocked that Tamashii were able to do civilian heads of Tommy and Jason because I think they wanted to do something with civilian heads when they had the license but couldn't. I think they got the answer no for Saban or something like that.
And it's interesting because we also know that Michael Tabor was really pissed that the Dino Charge Green figure had his head on it because he's like, I didn't consent to this, I didn't get paid for this, and it's like, well, you wouldn't get paid for it. And secondly, yeah, you worked on a non-union show. What do you expect?
So this is the thing. Ryan is correct. There were heads originally on prototypes, I believe, for the Legacy line, first Legacy line. If you remember, there were photos of green and red missing from like the original Legacy.
Yeah, I remember it was revealed. They green and red were no shit. Like you couldn't.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why. The original molds, like made of poor materials that they broke and cracked immediately. Like they dissolved and broke and snapped while they were trying to set them up. And Saban also didn't like how they tried to give like the Rangers to like almost like a textured like body,
like a McFarlane figure.
Yeah, they kind of tried to give it like almost like, you remember that revamp kind of like Green Ranger suit, like that material in his abdomen area for the revamped Green Ranger for Bat in the Sun. They kind of mimicked that kind of element for the fabric.
Yeah,
supposedly Saban like threw a shit fit. Not that it had like the actual design as the redesign, but it just had that kind of material look.
Yeah, I think also it probably just cost it out too. They couldn't afford it. Couldn't afford doing cloth suits.
And Saban was like furious, so they had to go back and like resculpt almost all those early figures that we saw. again.
I do want to mention Fire Fury said Shoto Super and Figuarts. Those are both great lines for different reasons. The problem is that Figuarts is a very limited character pool, and they like only do reds pretty much at this
Super
point.
Shoto are like 3-inch figures
and stickers. So it's like it's a good alternative. I probably would collect Super Shoto more, honestly.
So if Super Shoto was more, I would say.
I wish they were more painted because
accessible.
I certainly love my Ninja Man not having to paint them, you know, or not have to sticker them.
Yeah, I was just saying, but I think if they were more accessible,
them being all
that
P
Mr. Shoto
Bandai is makes them really hard to collect. So, yeah.
With that, so like that's the problem is with Power Rangers, as I was trying to say, is I think monsters being too big. I think the fact that we didn't have the correct sculptors working on the line. I also think.
Can I just
like,
in general, I think Lightning Collection had a very slapdash feel to it. It didn't feel like there was a plan. It felt like they were just kind of winging it, wave to wave.
I argue like year one had a plan, but Aaron Beyond, just year one. I think year one.
Look. Should we start getting into our opinions of John Warden? Is that too much to say on the stream?
I
think the line went downhill when he joined the design team. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, because year one, I think of just the brand in general.
It was good.
With the main line, it was good. You got the Lightning Collection was good with the variety, and we keep getting we got Mighty Morphin each way. We got a Down Charge or whatever each way. We got good. The main line was good because it was doing main range with a lot of accessories, villains with accessories. It was.
I didn't have a problem with year one.
Deluxe figures. The
Psycho Red Lost Galaxy Red 2-pack was genius.
Yeah. They even had the play school stuff, which was decent. Like that year one of Hasbro was good. But like after a little bit of year two is when John Warden joined the team is really when the whole
Hellfire brings up a really good point. Transformers improved the second he left. Yeah, because his last line he worked on was Kingdom, which was he only worked on the G1 side of it, okay? Here's the thing about John Warden. He was also in charge of War for Cybertron, or the Prime Wars trilogy,
Prime Wars trilogy,
which had these great ideas of let's do combiners, let's do headmasters, except it was all filled with whatever, like it was all filled with a bunch of... John Warden is the lead designer on Power Rangers, and then used to be the lead designer on Transformers. He did this thing with like, it was like, the Prime Wars trilogy was a good revival from Thrilling 30, but it was also like a total misfire. Like we didn't get all the combiners in the combiner line. We didn't get all the headmasters in the headmaster line. They were making characters that weren't combiners, and characters that weren't headmasters, and it's caused us major problems later on. And then
going back
into
to some of those
Siege,
toys of those eras, the quality isn't great. I think the only one that era.
But speaking on just design, because quality is a whole manufacturing thing we can't talk about. This is not really.
I was more talking about design, like the toy design.
And I also will say, Kyle, COVID. We're not talking about that as well. We're not talking about QC. We're just talking design. We're just talking about the design part, not the manufacturing side. That's a different layer.
Yeah, but I think the only John Warren era figure that I think has a good design is the Prime Wars is Trigger Happy. I think that's the only one I think.
But let me get to my point here. Siege and Earthrise are the same toy line. It is 80% of both those toy lines are the exact same characters. Cybertron mode, Earth mode. They repeated so many characters between those two lines. And then Kingdom was going to do all 86 movie. And then John Warden left. And then a bunch of Beast Wars stuff came in, and Studio Series 86 existed off of the characters that used to... They said this in a Q&A even, that originally Kingdom was all 86 movie characters, and then they moved a bunch of them over to Studio Series to have room for Beast Wars. And I gotta tell you, it's probably not a coincidence that as soon as John Warden left, non-G1 stuff ended up in the Generations line. Because Legacy and Legacy Evolution is a huge mix of the entire franchise, not just G1. So to that point, John Warden goes over to Power Rangers, and everything gets really messy. You know, design-wise, there was a consistency in year one, there was a consistency at the beginning of year two, and then it all started going completely out of control. And it seems to me that like John Warden seemed passionate about teams like In Space, which is why In Space turned out pretty consistent, even if every Astro Blaster was molded and painted differently. They all looked the same. But then other teams like Lost Galaxy, we couldn't get the Quasar Sabers with everybody. With SPD, the Morphers were different every time. With the A Squad, 4 of them matched and 1 of them didn't. The lead designer is ultimately the person that should be looking over the work to see if things line up, and the fact that wasn't happening is what concerns me to wonder if our pivot point was when John Warden joined the team. Because that was where I think we had an issue.
Here's a funny thing, guys.
Also, welcome Brendan Overland to the chat.
What I understand, too, with John Warden is he's a great technical, like, designer engineer. Like, he's not just, like, a brand manager, but, like, he did work on designing some good Transformers back in the past. Also heard he was that company Yes Man when they were like, yo, that's too expensive to dumb things down. He was like the guy that normally had to, like, he would just figure out how to dumb it down.
He spent 10 minutes justifying Rodimus being a commander class because of hydraulic hinges.
For some reason,
like, he's one of those guys. He's one of those guys who's one of those company Yes Man kind of guys. Where like Mark, the guy we've been trying to get.
Mark Evan for Transformers.
Like Mark, at least, and a few of the other guys mention how they still try to cram as much as they can in with the budget, versus John Warden, who will just like throw shit around.
And it's like the thing is, we don't know how much it's him, like officially, but with our observations and our look at where brand trajectory went when he joined it, it does seem like John Warden is probably one of those guys who's a good designer that got promoted up to a management level but wasn't good at being a manager. I think anybody that's worked in food service or retail knows that one manager that's not good at being a manager, and you know they only got promoted because they knew people.
Yeah, because I look at like currently with Transformers, Ben, Mark, and Evan on the design team, or Ryan and Dwight from Marvel Legends. I feel like they're more like the community with the fans, like fans. Like I mean, you look, you hear like you have like Mark or Ben.
Dwight's also really experienced at Hasbro because he used to work on G.I. Joe and Indiana Jones and Star Wars before he was on Marvel.
And same with the G.I. Joe team. Like I feel like those Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Marvel. I feel like they also have their restrictions because of management and all that stuff. But it feels like I feel like there's a more like they know what we want and what they, because I think it helps with because out of with John Warden, it really does feel like he only cares for G1. Where with the current team of Transformers, you can tell that they came from different aspects.
Guys, there's an Armada Optimus Prime with articulated legs for its super mode coming that just came out. That doesn't happen if you're a G1 focused brand. Right.
Mm-hmm. And saying like in Power Rangers, we just don't get. We don't get that feeling. It's the only
I don't get that feeling.
It's the only non-licensed brand where I feel that. I mean,
our actual fans on the line.
Yeah, it's like
I know that there are good people working on the brand, and there are people good at their jobs, but I don't know how many people that work on Power Rangers are really big fans of Power Rangers. Or how many are becoming fans because they work on it. And I think that, in general, I love the idea of the Lightning Collection, but the execution has just been really off. I mean, I've talked about it for the last couple of years.
Every Power Rangers fan stream still feels awkward. It got better recently. But
anytime Emily was in charge of the stream, she could pull it off because she makes everybody feel comfortable. But anytime you didn't have Emily running a stream, it was always very awkward, and it was always, you could always point to the things that was like.
Never forget the infamous piano stream.
Exactly. Spin Dash. Do other Hasbro brands have the same problem as PR, where they have photos from Malaysia months before they even acknowledge and announce something?
Well, Transformers, yes.
Transformers, yes. Specifically, like everybody. Like almost every Transformer thing, like leaks in China or somebody, and there's a couple of YouTubers that review it before it even gets announced.
Yeah,
for Marvel, it happens with the MCU stuff they can't reveal because they tie into shows and they aren't allowed to reveal by Disney.
I mean, like look at the recent leak What If wave.
Yeah, there's a whole way because Disney let them reveal the Secret Invasion figures from that wave, but nothing else because the rest of it's What If based. And so the thing is I think that there's one difference, though, with Power Rangers. Power Rangers, stuff will be available to buy in Malaysia. Not even leaks. You can just go walk into a regular store and buy it in Malaysia before they announce it, and that is a difference.
Mesogog was an official release.
Mesogog and Invisible Phantom and the Psycho Ranger set, I think, as well. Like, we could track it all the way through. Josh has tracked it in his videos.
Dialed Under White, like, those were official. They're not leaked. Those were not leak releases. Those are just official releases in Malaysia.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I got a question for you guys.
I was gonna say the thing on that is that you can buy. It's not just they leaked out of the factory; they were available to purchase in a normal store before they were announced. And the thing is, they were all these things are in production for months. Star Wars tells us a year before figures come out. That's too much. Marvel tells us about 6 months ahead of time. Power Rangers could give us more of a heads up than they do. They just didn't. And Spin Dash, yeah, they try to keep their lid on the MCU stuff because legally they have to. With Power Rangers, there's nothing legally stopping them from just telling us about figures. Wheels, you had a point to make before we get too far.
No, I was going to ask, hey, so if I got a hardcover book from a store,
yeah,
and the scumbag who was my mail carrier tried to bend the shit out of the book to fit it into the mailbox, who do I call for the damages? Because I can get this, I don't think, replaced.
Which store did you buy it from?
Books. I don't think they can replace this. An older used item. They bent the crap out of my. So do I take it up with the mail carrier and say, "Hey, yo, you
take it up with the retailer first, and if they can't do anything, then go to the mail carrier."
Because
yeah.
But
Spin Dash. Spin Dash brings a good point. Yeah, the streamer, they gave a roadmap of some future ways, verbal and concept art announcements, how they should have handled things from the beginning. That is how G.I. Joe works. G.I. Joe is amazing, okay? Because what you get is in every stream, you get physical reveals and pre-orders. But you will get renders. Oh, let's go through this. First, you get a name. They will throw out names like candy, okay? We know about like 30 more G.I. Joe figures just off of names, okay? Here's the name. Then the next stream, you get the renders for some of those names. And then the next stream, you get the physical product of some of those things, plus the pre-order. And then it's out in like 4 or 5 months. That you know what's coming. Like, we already know Airborne's coming to go with the Dragonfly, that kind of stuff. Transformers picked up pipeline reveals in a way that Star Wars did. Because actually, it wasn't G.I. Joe that did this first. Star Wars did it first. Star Wars would be like, here is upcoming figures. And then they tell you about characters and put pictures from the shows or movies about what the characters are. They did that with Indiana Jones as well. Transformers does it where they're like, all right, these are coming in the future, and they don't show you the toys, they just show you like a representation of it, because it's pre-existing stuff, it's not spoiling anything. They're just going to tell you this is coming, and then the next time you get a stream, they reveal the physical versions of some of those things. And that's something that Power Rangers did like once. I remember they did that with like Dino Charge Blue, or they did the teaser of like Alien Rangers and Lost Galaxy and stuff. But they never really just, like, they could do a pipeline reveal. Like, they're like, here's Wave 14, and then Pipeline Wave 15, and then Show Wave 15, then Pipeline Wave 16. That's what I feel like they should have been doing, because we would have known ahead of time what was coming up, as opposed to Josh getting listings and finding out, okay, here's the next figures, guys. Like, Josh was doing the pipeline reveals.
I think this thing is... I want, and this is not against Josh, but I think the fan relies even too much. Personally, I think that's the kind of. I mean, this is probably very straightforward for him because since Hasbro is not getting.
Do you think Josh wanted to make a video saying that the line's going on hiatus?
No.
When his channel is like half Lightning Collection, half everything else. You know, it's not a good news to deliver. I feel for him because I know that's got to be really hard to be able to deliver that news to fans that do not want to hear that news.
Like, at the end of it, I think people keep forget that Josh does not control. I feel like people really think Josh controls the line, not controls the line, but I feel like people look at him for answers, which he doesn't have because he does not work in the line. He just reports what he can find.
Yeah, people send him stuff. He has his sources. He has his things, and that's how he gets it done. And it's hard to do that because you don't have a direct line to know what's going on, and especially when you love a line enough to buy every release, because I never have gotten to the point.
You pay $80 for just stickers of Tom Lennon art.
Yeah, exactly. He paid. Like, I have not seen somebody be this passionate for a line. You know, Josh is Toku Topics. He does Lightning Collection stuff. He has a whole Twitter account for Lightning Collection news. And yeah, and Spin Dash, you're right. Pressure is on him because Hasbro doesn't do the legwork. And yeah, so they're going to look at the fan that's knowledgeable in this. It's kind of like, I kind of wanted to, at one point, I thought, you know what if I were to become the G.I. Joe Classified guy that knows everything and keeps up with everything and knows every release and stuff. And I honestly was like, I can't do this. I can't be this guy. You know, I can't do that for something like G.I. Joe. I'll do that for Star Trek Playmates because there's like no news. But something as active as G.I. Joe, that's a whole dedicated thing. I don't even buy every G.I. Joe release. I skip like Desert Commando Snake Eyes and a couple of other repaints. You know, I get every new named character, but it's, you know, to put a lot of dedication into a line because you love the line, you know, it's awesome. And it's hard when that line goes away. You know, I've been dealing with that for months with Star Trek. I've been laughing it off, but I'm really bummed out I don't get to do a Star Trek Playmates video every few months with new figures.
I mean, it doesn't help with Prodigy.
It doesn't help with Prodigy. I know about 14 Star Trek toys that have been shown to investor calls, to toy shows that had no photography allowed, and all kinds of other stuff. I know about a bunch of toys that are supposedly in the works for Star Trek, and I have no idea if they're ever going to come out, which is why I don't like to talk about them, because, you know, I don't have any faith in the company. And I imagine that Josh is in a similar position where he's like, anything he tells us about now may not come out. And that's a bummer.
It's very similar with Playmates, they're focusing on Turtles right now, because in Star Trek. But, like, you know, I think what's frustrating is, why is Power Rangers like this compared to every other non-licensed Hasbro brand? Because, okay, licensed brands, it makes sense why they don't get
I don't know how much we can say non-licensed, because I think Toei still has some kind of stake in it. Yeah, but Hasbro does own the toy rights and the show rights, so there shouldn't be this frictiony.
Yeah, they own it. Like, yeah, I understand even there's still limitations. Like, even compared to Marvel, Marvel has it's a licensed brand that has.
But you get 160 Marvel Legends, a few role play items, and then
communication,
and then communication on everything. One of the Marvel Legends brand managers on Twitter just is like, "Hey guys, we're going to reveal something on Thursday. Hey, just so you know, we're going to reveal this here. Oh, hey, we revealed this. It'll go up for pre-order then." Like, you know, just do with all this actual like work.
That's the thing, you know, Marvel, and that's again, Marvel has the mouse looking over them.
Yep.
So why can't Lightning Collection, which is even with Toei, is owned by Hasbro? Like, they own the franchise. Why cannot? Why is it like this? I think it's the biggest problem with Power Rangers Hasbro, because even with Bandai, and I know people had a lot of problems with Bandai, it still felt better than what we have now, because at least they still had some communication. At least
Bandai had the passion.
Yeah,
Bandai had the passion.
It was their only thing. It was their only thing during that time. Like, and really enough, like, Bandai America has done better now without Power Rangers funding enough, honestly. But that's a separate thing. But still, like,
they're still regretting not buying it, though.
Yeah. I will say, congratulations on the Enterprise D model, Don Ranger Power. Good luck painting it. That should be a fun time. And the Sentai and Rider formula doesn't work. It works in Japan because it's just a different market, different culture, different everything.
Again, different. I think that's the
a lot less fickle of a culture when it comes to long-running media. That's for sure. If One Piece was an American show, it would have never lasted as long as it did.
Same with Dragon Ball. Same with
Infinite says that they were to get a hardcore superfan as brand manager. I feel like
I don't think that's a good
say
idea either.
Getting somebody, I would say superfan, but not like hardcore superfan.
Because you get their own problems there.
Yeah, because the thing is, and I do legitimately say this with all the love in the world, there's only like 3 people in the fandom I would say would be good for the job, and I'm not one of them. Because I do not work well in corporate structures.
I mean, like
I would get fired after a week.
As much as people want Josh to work on the brand, like and there's not anything against Josh, but like, is he capable of? Like, because I think a lot of people don't realize there's a difference between being an actual brand manager and being a fan of something.
Exactly.
One's an actual job.
You got to know the business. You have to work in the corporate ladder. You got to be able to appease the corporate bosses, the fans, and the the shareholders. There's so much to it.
It's that classic Nintendo hire this man, stupidness thing.
And so the thing is, I think that in general, a lot of us that make content online know the business. I don't want to work in the toy business outside of a review discussion capacity, because
send me product.
yeah, exactly. I would love to cover product and go to shows, interview people. I love doing that stuff. I don't want to work in the corporate ladder of it, because I would get too frustrated and too stressed out about it. The thing is, if I was put in charge of the Power Rangers Lightning Collection brand, like right now, and they're like, we got to revitalize this. You got 6 months to figure it all out. My proposal would get rejected and I get fired because it would be unrealistic.
I'm a technical engineer, and it's a separate name for toy making, but still, I had to make stuff, and it's not as easy to think, because we had to order parts, so we had to balance the budget, we had to make sure we have everything. It's not an easy job.
It's not.
When
you get into the bit, it's fun to think about how the line can work, and then you got to get into the business, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, deal with the fan backlash. I think we need, what the ideal brand manager for Power Rangers.
I feel bad whoever's running the social medias, if they are, because that is the mental health nightmare.
Most of them are interns. I will say that the perfect person to run like a brand, and they need to be dedicated to just one. Emily at Hasbro is working on 6 brands. She's stretched thin. She can't fix all this.
Again, she did not know anything about G.I. Joe, and then she did research. She became a fan, but she's still a good brand manager.
That's who we need. Somebody like Emily, who is good at being a brand manager, good at being working in the corporate structure, but is willing to take the time to learn about the brand, research why it's important, and become a fan in the process. So someone that knows the business, that's willing to understand the meaning behind things. And that is the type of person we need. And I wish that Hasbro wasn't stretching Emily across all the brands right now, because, outside of like the Lucasfilm brands and Marvel, she's like doing everything else. And I really do think that she's the kind of person, and she's done great for G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe I think Classify was on the verge of like collapsing and never coming back. And she pulled it around because she looked at what the fans were saying. She understood the meaning behind characters, and talked to the designers and said, all right, how do we do this to get this to work? And that's the thing too, is that, and you work in a brand manager or anything with a fandom, you're gonna get backlash, and you just have to deal with it. What you don't do? Interact with it on Twitter.
Simon.
This is a message to Simon Bennett that I'm glad he doesn't have a Twitter, because as soon as you open that door, people will never stop asking you. And that is the key thing. If you are ever in a position where you're in charge of a brand with a fandom, don't interact on Twitter to every single little conversation. That is, because if you open that door, you will never be able to close it. So does anybody else have any thoughts, last thoughts on the Lightning Collection line?
All I would say is, look, I understand that this is your favorite toy line, and I understand you're upset that it's ending, but don't let this eat this up. At the end of the day, they're plastic toys.
Yes.
Don't let, I literally don't be so obsessed that, there's more to life than toys. There is.
Toy lines come and go. And if it's the only thing that is holding you together, I said this a few months ago when we were talking about the future of Power Rangers. I said, if Power Rangers is your one and only thing, it's time to explore new hobbies. If this is your one and only toy line, there are plenty of toy lines out there. Enjoy what comes out that is still to come out, because there still will be stuff, and then move on to something new,
And it doesn't have to be just other media franchises. It could be just anything like exercising or building stuff or cooking. There's something that brings you joy in life is most important, because you will find it. Just because one thing ends doesn't mean you can't find another thing that you will love to do.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like, all right, I got sent this. Apparently there was an action figure collecting forum where someone was saying the fandom's the reason why Lightning Collection is going away. No, it's the poor management. It ultimately is the poor management. Like, people looking from the outside in think it's Power Rangers fandom. I get that. This fandom is too chaotic.
I can't blame. Yeah, I see.
I can't blame him for that. But
mad.
we all know the reason why is because we've laid it all out. We've talked about it for hours. I don't think we need to talk about it anymore, honestly. And that's the thing is, yeah, Super Shag's Boom's a great point. Really sad I have to spend less money next year. Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, but like, Indy's probably done. Lightning's going to be done. G.I. Joe's still running, but I would love it if nothing replaced those two for a year. I could really use a break. There's so many lines coming out.
I am scared whatever NECA gets in 10 years makes 2003 Turtle figures of their quality, because I'm buying almost everything.
Speaking of NECA, they just put up a Mirage Savanti Romero figure.
And last Ronin Foot Ninja's like, oh no.
I have decided not to do the last Ronin line for the sake of I have too many Turtles figures, but I want Savanti Romero.
I'll at least get the last Ronin himself, at least, at most.
Yeah, last Ronin figure's great. I think, for those wondering, like, yeah, I think it's going to come back. I think every IP that has a stake in it. I forgot. I highlighted it earlier. Someone said this. This was great. They said they're not going to try to sell Power Rangers because they can always float MMPR out for merchandise money, and that's more valuable.
Also, who would buy it at this point? Who
would buy it? Yeah. I think that we're still going to see some releases. We still know we got those Omega Rangers coming. I'm so excited for those.
Let people know the line's not done now.
It's not done. Yeah, it's not like it's done right now. We still got all the stuff that got revealed and stuff that leaked. There's still stuff coming. I think a hiatus is what they need to get a lock on the QC and maybe have a game plan of how to bring the line back. Because I don't think the idea is dead. I don't think Power Rangers is dead either. I think we got possibilities. I think, though, taking a break is good for everybody. 100%. Taking a break is good for everybody. So we'll see. We still got stuff in 2023. It's not going to be like January 1st, no more Lightning. No, there's still going to be some stuff. There's
no kill switch.
There's no kill switch. But I think, and that's the thing too, maybe a hiatus, they just dumped the whole design team. They're already all working on other brands anyways. They can all go work on those other brands, and then they start fresh in a few years.
I mean,
when the reboot, Fairy brings a good point. Yeah, when the reboot's ready, whenever that is.
Whenever that is.
Exactly.
It's all this strike stuff eventually.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't even think the strikes affected the reboot because they were not even casting. They never even got to casting before the strike. Before the writers were even on strike, there was no casting. I don't know what the status of the reboot is. None of us really do. It's in development. And it's going to be in development for probably another couple years. But I think the fandom could use a break. We could use a break. I certainly
really announced that too early. That reboot.
Yeah, they announced the reboot too early for sure. Effortless Random. That brings me to my last point. Yeah, there's still stuff we want, and Hasbro knows that because I think if they had satisfied the fandom, if they gave us all the teams and then went on hiatus, they'd have nothing to do when they came back. Besides redoing stuff, but honestly, why would you do that, right?
Some figures probably need them.
Yeah, some like Time Forces are just a disaster. But like the thing is that obviously the design team did not plan a wave that has Turbo Red, RPM Yellow, and Lightspeed Blue to be the last wave for a while. This is just something that came higher up. But by having stuff that people want means there will be a demand when it comes back, and maybe the demand will be higher because of the break that we had. And I think that's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to look at the positive here. But I also kind of like looking forward to not talking about Lightning Collection QC problems on an annual basis. And Josh did a video today talking about, or he's doing a new video series about fan-made Lightning Collection stuff and how the line will keep going in the eyes of the fandom. And I think it's a great way to do it. It's kind of inspired me. I came up with a video idea in my head. It's not a copy of any kind, but I kind of came up with something that I want to do with the Lightning Collection. When this hiatus comes, when we know... Yeah, I know someone... no more Lightning Collection lottery. That is the biggest bummer for me. I really enjoyed the Lightning Collection lottery.
Sound. You know what's going to happen now? All the QC problems will now lift and go to G.I. Joe now.
Oh,
it's a curse.
I mean, they already... G.I. Joe, the last wave was really rough, but the new wave is better, so, whew. Yeah, Muteki, I could afford a juggler sword if I didn't have... didn't have the stuff. But the thing is, I'm going to do something with Lightning Collection whenever we come to what we can kind of tell is the kind of the end of this era. I think that there'll be a video for that, and it'll be a big old video, and I have the idea brewing in my head, and it'll be fun, and I think you guys will like it. Spin Dash says Hasbro exec. So you're saying when we return, do MMPR again, as always. Matthews Laura, we all lost the lottery.
I would say I can't wait for the Lightning Rundown next year.
Yeah, and then SR22, do you guys think Lightning may get canceled? I think it's going on break. I think they'll give it another go. I tell you though, if they do the hiatus, they come back, they relaunch the line, and it tanks, we're never seeing it again. It'll be a completely different thing if they ever do it again. But yeah, Ultra Phase, more money for Transformers. Kyle, the helicopter. Yeah, no, the helicopter in the room. I still don't know where I'm going to put it. I got a year to figure it out. But to your point, yeah, the Lightning Collection rundown this year is going to be real weird. We'll see.
You know what I recommend? Just put all the elephant Zords on your shelf.
Oh my god, all the elephants behind me. So, and just not talk about the hiatus.
Yes.
That could be fun. I want to put that in my notes right frickin' now. Right now, I want to put it in. Rundown. Elephant Zords for LC rundown. Don't mention. Okay. All right, I put that down. I appreciate you guys all being here for the stream. This is I think our most attended stream, if I'm remembering our past streams.
We put Lightning Collection in the title.
Even when we put Lightning Collection in the title, we usually don't have this many viewers.
There was one you had 100 plus.
We have 226 total views currently.
Oh, it says 42 on my end.
It's 42 current viewers. 226 unique viewers have come through.
Oh, okay.
So, I definitely, I'm glad we had this discussion. I think it was a very good discussion. We will still talk about Lightning Collection as there's news of whatever's left.
There's still stuff. There's still stuff coming.
There's still stuff coming. I'm still so hyped for the Omegas. And Power Rangers won't be completely dead. We'll still have the comics. Even when G.I. Joe was dead, there were still comics. So.
And when Cosmic Fury comes out, we will talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. It'll be fun. I think, it definitely. We'll still talk about Power Rangers. It's never going away. It might even be easier for me to do Power Rangers videos with that current stuff coming out. SSJ4 Jason, I hope they do Gears justice. We need a good Gears toy for Transformers. But yeah, until then, we have run 20 minutes over. It is 83 degrees in the room now. We started
Where
at
can
80.
people find us?
Where can we find us online? Wheels, you still here? Okay, he's not. You can find him at Wheelchair21.
Find me at Wheelchair21.
One on YouTube and Twitter. Ryan, what do you do on Twitter?
I do art. Like the ones who see this very channel. If you want any, feel free to DM me on Twitter. Which, by the way, for any artists on Twitter, go check your DM settings because Musk screwed us over again.
Yep. Go check your DM settings to accept DMs from everybody.
In case you don't know, there's a recent change on Twitter where only verified viewers can DM you or something like that. But you can change that in the settings in your direct message settings, so it could be anybody.
Okay.
So thank God. I was like, well, thank God it didn't screw us over that bad, but it's so bad.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Kaus, where can people find you?
Where can people find you, Kaus?
Fighter Kaus on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for anything I do. And on Twitch, the same name, Fighter Kaus. 4 p.m. Tuesdays and Fridays. That's Eastern Time. Tuesdays is King of Fighters. Fridays is Fate Grand Order, but not this Friday. This Friday, we'll all be playing Shredder's Revenge.
Mm-hmm. I'll be there for that if I don't melt first. To a pile of goo.
No, you're just melting to a pile of mutagen.
Yeah, ooze.
Or you become real like Mugen, man.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, so come join us, twitch.tv/FighterCaus, right?
Yep.
And you can find me at all the things, but there's even links for me down below if you guys want. I really enjoyed the stream. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you all for chatting, and yeah, we had a good time. Next week there probably will be Comic-Con news, so that'll be fun. And then the week after, Discotek.
Actually, before you head out, what's the schedule for this week?
Oh yeah, so I'm taking a week off in case you guys don't see me respond to. I haven't responded to comments in like 3 days. If I don't respond to comments, I'm taking a week off because of the heat. But I don't take weeks off without making an entire week's worth of videos for you guys because I'm insane. They are much simpler videos. Okay, they're not like any fancy discussion, retrospective, yada yada. They're very simple. There's going to be 2 reviews. There's going to be 2 shorts, and they'll be fun. Lightning Collection Lottery on Tuesday. Wednesday will be a review of 2 Figuarts. Thursday will be a review of something I found on clearance at Target. And then Friday will be a review of something I've wanted for 20 years. So, and I may have already talked about it in the stream, so you can kind of put those 2 together. I'm not going to SDCC, but I will cover whatever toy news comes out of it, because that's probably all the news that there's going to be.
I'm really hoping Loyal Subjects announced that all those IEW figures they have listings of, because
that would be cool.
I'm gonna buy all. I'll buy all of them.
Yep, and then Discotek has a 3-hour Digimon screening at Otakon after their panel.
I think that theory confirms it has to be some of those movies.
It's gotta be the adventure movies add up to like 2.5 hours. I saw Spin Dash post that like the runtime on the adventures movies is it would fit in that 3-hour block. But it's gonna be a good time. You guys enjoy the videos this week. Enjoy everything. I will chat with you all later because I don't have to do any more video work for the rest of the week, and that is good because it is hot and I am tired, and I also needed, just like Power Rangers, a creative rest indeed. So thank you everybody for coming. Have a great week, and we'll see you all next time.